開けるんだ開くのさその不思議な扉を登れるんだ登るのさ未来に触れるその心炸裂のドミノ節消えてゆく皆の命愛してる女性に裏切られ白涙が宇宙にさまよその行方さえも知らぬただただ自由に漂う登れるな登るのさ未来に触れるその心今私の遠いさ熱く燃える遠いさ水の証遠いさ敵を落とせ遠いさ我らの遠いさ
Hello and welcome to Japanimation Station, an anime podcast brought to you by Sean Chapman.
And Jonathan Lack.
And we are here once again to peer into the delightfully deranged mind of Tomino Yoshiyuki with our Tomino-thon. This week on the show, we are bringing you a special bonus episode of our Tomino-thon where we are wrapping up Tomino-thon Part 1. And we thought it would be a good opportunity to stop and, smell the roses and look back at the wonderful journey we have taken up to this point before we will move on to Tomino-thon Part 2 with Zeta Gundam and all that other stuff. We've got some stones left unturned we need to deal with, so we are going to discuss the L-Gaim OVAs on today's episode, the two compilation ones and their little bonus shorts, and the third OVA, which is a full original, almost like a little L-Gaim movie in a way. And we are also going to revive an old Weekly Suit Gundam tradition, and we've got some rankings we are going to do of all the fun stuff we have done so far on our Tomino-thon Part 1.
Indeed. So we will, and we will revisit these rankings at the end of Tomino-thon Part 2, so we can create the ultimate Tomino rankings, as we did with Gundam back in the day. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun. We've got songs, we've got names, we've got the shows themselves, and we got some pretty cool OVAs to talk about.
Yes, we do, Jonathan. We've got some very fun stuff lined up for today's episode.
All right, so do you want to dive right in with the OVAs for Heavy Metal L-Gaim?
Yeah, so let's talk about these OVAs, because this is something we weren't even originally going to do, and then we realized, oh, wait, it's not just some compilation stuff, that there's a whole original one. I've put together a little bit of notes here to go through, but there's not all that much. As we've discussed previously, L-Gaim, the show, was being released at the beginning of this massive shift in the anime industry we saw in the 80s, one of those shifts being the dawn of OVAs, which started with Oshimamoto's Dalos series releasing in December 1983. L-Gaim aired from February 1984 to 1985, and Sunrise began experimenting with the OVA format a few months before L-Gaim's conclusion. Sunrise's first OVA was a series of releases for the Round Vernian Vifam series, which we mentioned before because that was the project Nagano Mamoru was first brought into when he was hired by Sunrise. So they released 3 OVAs from October 1984 to February 1985, and their strategy was they had 2 compilation OVAs that compiled different elements of the original series, and then the third one was a wholly original release. Sunrise would, alongside releasing 2 original Vodhams OVAs and the Dirty Pair OVA we've discussed before on Japanimation Station, Affair of Nolandia, they would, outside of those original ones, repeat this strategy of this kind of 3-part structure of 2 compilations and then an original with 2 of their other mecha series from the mid-80s, Panzer World Gallant and Blue Comet SPT Leisner. Which I have to say, 80s mecha shows have very good names.
Yes, they do.
They're very awesome. In November 1986, over a year and a half after the TV show for L-Gaim ended, which is a much bigger gap between the OVAs and the TV series. For those other ones, they're almost kind of concurrent. They're like right on top of them. For L-Gaim, it took them a little bit, but it would become L-Gaim's turn at bat that year and a half later. But with a little twist, they have a little extra. So instead of just having 2 compilation OVAs and original, they did also include a little 3-minute short on the 2 compilation ones, which I've been going through a bunch of scans of old new types that are helping me do some research for part 2 of the Tomino-thon, and they're very keen on advertising for the ads on that magazine. It's additional material and new material and 3 minutes of new material. So it's their thing of trying to sell those a little bit more, because obviously the compilation videos do not sell anywhere near as much as the original ones, as I think you would expect, because people want the new stuff. So they put a little bit of extra new stuff on there. Just for reference for where these OVAs fall in terms of the timeline of our Tomino-thon, Gundam Double Zeta would have about 2 months left of airing when OVA 1 was released, and it would be finished by the time the 3rd OVA came out. So these are kind of timed around Double Zeta in terms of when they're coming out relative to Tomino's work.
And I'll also say, just remember that we are still at the point in the 80s where TV shows are not getting full home video releases. That does begin in the 90s to some extent. Like Gundam gets its Laserdisc boxes in like the early 90s, but at this point there would be no other way to see L-Gaim stuff outside of reruns, or if you happened to tape the episodes or know someone who taped them. So while those compilation ones sold less, there would still be an appeal to be like, oh, I can see, and it would be in better quality than you would see on your TV and stuff like that. Some of the new L-Gaim stuff, or some of the old L-Gaim stuff that you probably had fond memories of. So that's also part of the strategy with this kind of thing.
Yes, that's a good piece of context, that you're very correct, that they are not yet selling like whole TV shows or anything like that. The home video market is still very young at this point, and so that's part of the point there. And one of the funny things about looking through some of those old new type scans for that magazine is that they do have little like cutouts for box art you could use, basically, or not box art, but like things you could tape to the front of VHS tapes, like Betamax tapes and stuff like that, for if you are recording the TV series on your own, here's a fun little L-Gaim logo you can cut out of the magazine and tape onto this tape. And it's like, man, things have changed a lot since the mid-80s.
Yeah, but talk about knowing your audience, because fuck yeah, I'm thinking about that when I used to like tape full runs of shows, and I'm like, that sounds awesome. New Type is a cool magazine. Yes,
they were very much on top of that whole wave. Expectedly, there's not all that much information out about these OVAs. Like, there's not like big interviews or stuff talking about like, oh, this is how this all went down. In terms of credits, it's mostly the same people from the original series, from the TV series, in very similar roles. The main exception is Sekida Osamu. He's one of the main episode directors for L-Gaim, and really for almost everything we've covered so far in the Tomino-thon, and will for a while for the Tomino-thon. He's like one of the main guys working with Tomino. He is specifically credited both as director and quote-unquote inshutsu, which is normally what you'd say is the episode director credit. He is that on all 3 of these projects. Tomino's name only appears as an original work credit, Gen-on. So it's easy to assume that Tomino probably had little to maybe no involvement at all with these, which makes sense considering he was deep in the trenches on doing other stuff, like David's Double Zeta, planning Char's counterattack, all that kind of stuff. So I would assume that Sekida Osamu was just in charge of the overall OVA project, including the compilations, and then the original material, and then, of course, the 3rd OVA, which is totally original. The other major credit that is consistent across all 3, including the original stuff, is Watanabe Yuji, who is the main writer from the series, as well as the writer of the L-Gaim novels. He has that same credit here, so I'm also just assuming that those 2 are kind of the main creative forces behind these OVAs. But again, there's not like an interview where Sekida Osamu goes into how they made it, because these are kind of like footnotes in the history of L-Gaim, really.
Yeah. But then you want to talk about how these sold? Because you were able to find some details on this, which is cool.
Yes, so in the new type magazines, after about a year or 2 of the magazines run, they started in 1985, they did start showing charts of home video rankings, specifically just with things that would interest the new type audience. So there are always like really weird gaps, or there are a lot of times where there's nothing ranked at number 1, because presumably that was some popular movie at the movie theater or something, or whatever that they had put in there. Every once in a while, there will be movies in those rankings, but it's always sci-fi stuff like Back to the Future or Aliens, or Alien 2, as they call it in Japan, is in there. But it's mostly anime rankings, and so we don't have like numbers for how much it sold, but just in terms of relative rankings compared to other stuff. So the compilation OVAs sold only modestly well, more or less in line with the other compilation OVAs for other series I saw. They debuted at 6 and 7, respectively, on the video cassette best sales chart. The first OVA fell off really quickly. Like, that one did not hang in the charts almost at all. The second one did have more staying power. It hung around position 7 for several weeks on the chart. And I think that the second one is the more interesting one to own because it's just basically the last several episodes of L-Gaim. So if I were to buy one of those, that would be the one I would be more likely to buy in terms of the compilations. The third OVA, however, did, as you would expect, much, much better. It debuted at number 1 in the charts, though for some context, it did have fairly weak competition compared to other stuff. Like one of the other original anime coming out at the same time is part 1 of Sheen Creamy Lemon, which is one of the early adult anime. So this is one of the fun things looking at old new types is like, here's them trying to figure out how do we basically advertise animated pornography to people, because that's part of the early OVA market, as you know, obviously porn is usually at the forefront of new mediums and stuff like that, and it was very much the case for home video for anime as well. But anyway,
for all home video, Sean.
Yes.
I mean, there is a real case to be made that VHS beat Betamax because porn was on VHS. That's like a historical detail. There are other reasons, but yeah, of course.
And then, of course, you know, now you can sell these things directly to people. You don't have to have on air, so you can draw people fucking, and people will buy that because they want to own it. So
indeed,
that's the context. For L-Gaim, it stayed in a really high position of the charts until early June, so it had quite a bit of staying power, a lot more than a lot of other competition. Usually these OVAs are only near the top of the charts for like the month in which they release, and then by the next issue, they're basically gone from those rankings. L-Gaim stuck around for a couple of issues, which was pretty impressive. Amusingly, despite its commercial success, the new type blurb on the rankings is fairly negative, which is super unusual. Like, this is just for context, this is like... all it is the top 3 things on the ranking. They would have like a picture of the poster for it and then a little paragraph underneath it describing it. And New Type is a super like commercial magazine. It is not about reviews. It's not about criticism. And so everything is, you know, very Nintendo Power-esque in terms of video games. It's all like, hey, let's have fun, and here's all the cool stuff. It's very corporate. And so it's really unusual to see something that's negative, but they did have a weirdly negative statement for this third OVA, and I've translated it here, doing my best to try to keep the incredibly cringy style of writing from these 80s magazines. Like, it is brain-meltingly terrible, the style of the writing. It's just, like, weird. But it's something like, L-Gaim's third OVA is a totally original work, guys. Well, despite those expectations, the animation's a bit sucky, and the climax is totally limp. But I guess there's nothing wrong with buying it. Hey, what kind of follow-up is that, in parentheses? And that was the only comment they made on the third OVA, was the animation's a bit sucky, the climax is limp, and specifically they say, like, there's no loss in buying it, is how it's literally written in Japanese, which is a very strange thing to say about something that cost 11,000 yen to buy, which is, there is a very specific loss in buying the thing, which is, it's the monetary loss of 11,000 yen. But yes, that is some of the context of the market in which these OVAs originally released.
And I do not understand their negativity, because I think L-Gaim OVA 3 Full Metal Soldier fucking slaps. I loved it.
I really enjoyed it, yeah. Like, I can understand that the outside of the end, I don't understand the climax being limp. I think the climax is the best part of the thing. I can understand the complaints about the animation relative to other original OVAs at the time.
It's just like the TV show. There's not really like a huge leap the way you would see on other OVAs,
Yeah, so I can imagine if you're someone who's asking the question, am I going to spend 11,000 yen to buy this thing, which is like $100 for 50 to 55 minutes of animation, and you're comparing it to things like Dallas and other OVAs around the time, that it is a little bit cheap relative to those, but it's still very good.
Yeah, I mean, you know, remember also that there were rental stores were a big thing at the time, so you didn't have to pay $100 to go watch this. You could just go rent it from your local store, and that would probably be the better option for anything that is 50 minutes long, and that's it, and that's all that's on the disc or the tape or whatever. But yeah, I mean, these are interesting OVAs. I will admit, I did not watch every second of the first 2 because I could not, for the life of me, find anything that subtitled these. And so I had some trouble following it. I kind of danced around to kind of see what they were like. We were hoping that the Sentai Filmworks Blu-ray of Heavy Metal L-Gaim would be out in the States by the time we recorded this, but they pushed back its release by, at this point, I think it's a month or two, and so we still don't have it. And that is going to subtitle the full OVAs, which is great, because I do think these are like pretty well-structured OVAs, particularly the second one, I think makes some cool choices. Like, the second OVA starts with the Lilith flashback of all the fairies getting nuked, which is a fucking metal way to start your OVA, to just like pop in your Laserdisc and be like, ooh, this is a nice serene scene of fairies in a field, and then they all get nuked. And then it is just the climax of L-Gaim, which is fantastic. So like, that's great. And then I think the little comedy shorts are good too. But yeah, and then I think the third one is just like, it's basically Heavy Metal L-Gaim the movie, and it's very good at doing that.
Yes, yeah. I think my overall take is like the compilations are what they are. The second one is definitely better because it is more just sort of here's the ending of the show. It does have like, I mean, you still have to have seen the TV show to watch them. Like because they're just, you know, there are very bizarre leaps in the story that are made that you can only cover up with knowledge of having watched the TV show. For instance, while the second OVA does start with the Lilith thing with the fairy people getting nuked to death, it then does the scene with Full Flat and Oldna Poseidol where she's trying to bring her like original personality back, and concludes with Full Flat dying, and then it goes into the show, and then it like goes back like basically 2 episodes earlier, and Full Flat's still alive, and it never really completes that circle. There's a lot of little jumps like that. The first OVA, in terms of the compilation, it starts with basically just a slightly trimmed down version of the first 2 episodes, and then once they go into the city where they need to find a Mandra Commandra, it starts making much bigger leaps until eventually I think it probably would be more or less incomprehensible. And so you're kind of like watching it for what it originally its purpose was, like, here's a sampling of Heavy Metal L-Gaim. It's not a way of experiencing the story of Heavy Metal L-Gaim. It's not trying to be like the Ideon compilation movie. That one is trying to give you a way of experiencing the story of the first half or so of the TV show for Space Runaway Ideon, and it's, you know, maybe more or less successful at some elements of that. Here it is more like, it's closer to something like a recap episode in a TV anime or something, where we're kind of just showing you the most expensive bits of animation, and that happens to be episodes 1 and 2, and the last 3 or 4 episodes of the show are where the biggest like kind of bang for your buck in terms of the animation is. And so those are the sections of the show that are most fully preserved in the 2 compilations.
Yeah, and, you know, I think that is as you would expect it. I think I do think for, like, if you think about their original release, like, what were these actually made for? I think they are a good version of that. Like, I think if you were on the market for, I want to watch an hour of this show I liked on TV back in the day. Because, like, I remember this when I was a kid of sometimes, you know, you would go buy, you know, you could never go buy a full season of TV on VHS, right? That was just not a thing when we were kids. But maybe you could buy a tape with, like, here's the 3 best episodes of this or something like that. And, like, and you would get that and be like, oh, this is awesome. Because, you know, I don't have to go, like, wait for these episodes to show up in a rerun to see them. And that could be a fun thing. I think this is a good version of that. Totally respectable. Does it have a lot of purpose today when I just have a hard drive with every episode of L-Gaim on it? No, but that's not the OVA's fault.
Yes, yeah, they are what they are. They're relics of a bygone era of home entertainment.
But in another way, they portend a new era, because the shorts that are attached to them, the first one is Lady Gabele, and then the second one is Pentagona Dolls. And that second one in particular is very clearly a dry run for what Sunrise was about to start doing with Mobile Suit SD Gundam, which is their series of comedy shorts that are going to start as a theatrical prelude on Char's counterattack, but then they turn into a OVA thing throughout the 90s. And it's the exact same idea, other than they don't use SD, like super deformed designs, but it is taking the characters, putting them into a ridiculous outside the continuity situation, keeping the original voice actors and letting them play comic. Particularly Pentagona Dolls is very similar to like the Wacky Races bit in the original SD Gundam, where it's just, in this case, it's a big wrestling match, and there's fun jokes, and they're short, they're each 3 minutes long, but in particular I thought Pentagona Dolls was very funny. If you like these actors, particularly for seeing, my favorite bit was Daba very uncomfortably trying to play comedy when he is the character least suited to it. It's very fun at that.
Yeah, I did enjoy the Pentagon Dolls one, which is, it is Leshy and Amu in a wrestling match with the girls from Gable's ship, like Iraine, Concho, and Pamela. And then Lilith is also there, where there's some fun jokes about that. And then you've got Cow doing regular commentary. Daba is there to be like the color commentator, and the joke is like that he just doesn't know what to say. And so whenever it cuts to him, he just sort of mumbles a little bit or says something kind of incomprehensible. And then at the end, he's trying to say something profound, but it doesn't make sense. And then Gable is also there as another commentator. And yeah, like it's a quick run of some little gags. It plays off of the humor of the characters. Like Leshy and Amu are more or less just Leshy and Amu from the first half of L-Gaim, because they are already fairly comedic characters. But I particularly like the way that Gable and Daba are used. And you're right, and I think identifying that these are kind of precursors to the kind of humor you would get in those early SD Gundam OVAs / theatrical shorts.
Yeah. And you even get a little bit of nudity in Pentagon Dolls for your OVA dollars, because there's a joke where Leshy, in a fit of rage, just pulls off the enemy wrestler's like top and just reveals her breast, and then Amu makes fun of her for that for the rest of the short, and that was funny. So there you go. Then the other short on the first one is Lady Gable, where Gavalet Gable, in his endless attempts to bring down Daba Myrod and friends, dresses up as a sexy lady trying to seduce Daba. This is like, you could write a big academic paper on the homoeroticism in this thing, because it is so out there in how hard he is trying to seduce Daba. Then it turns out he winds up seducing Cow, and I kind of had to respect it for the last beat is not Gable undresses and Cow is like, oh, gross, you're a dude. The last beat is he undresses, proves he's a man, and then Cow says, I prefer men, actually, and races after him. And I was kind of stunned to see that.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's better than like the kind of the punchline that I think is you're fearing and dreading the whole time you're watching it. It's still, the way it's played is still very much like it's using homosexuality as a punchline, and being Cow being more attracted to him as a man is funny, because we're assuming that the audience is going to think it's like, he's gay and that's gross and that makes it funny.
I don't know if it played that way to me quite. It's like, it's so silly that I don't know if it had that kind of register to me. But
it's not actively mean-spirited, but it's just, there's something about the way that it's portrayed. It feels very in line with similar kinds of jokes from the period. Yeah. That like, it's not anywhere like near as offensive as it could be, but it's also not like progressive or anything.
But you know what? I say I'm choosing that this one is canonical and Cow is gay, and I think that, I just think that adds up. Let's go with that.
The thing I enjoy about the Lady Gable one, though, is getting to hear Jaime Sho voicing a woman effectively. Yes. And it was a thing where it like made me reflect on how, like it's not uncommon for a female voice actor to voice male characters, because they're voicing teenagers, or they're voicing young boys, or sometimes an androgynous character like a Kurama from Yu Yu Hakusho will have a female voice actor. But it's very unusual to have a scenario where a male voice actor is playing a female character, because there's almost no situation in which it would make a lot of sense to do that. But if you have a really good voice actor like Jaime Sho, he can totally fucking pull it off. Like, I was stunned by how effective it was as, like, a husky woman's voice. I'm like, Jesus Christ. It's like because it's something where when you see how far they go with the character design, where they don't draw Lady Gable as looking like Gable cross-dressing the way you would imagine. It just looks like a totally different character. And so he commits to the voice so fully. I'm like, he could just legitimately play this character. Like, you wouldn't have to cast somebody else. Again, there's usually wouldn't be much of a reason why you wouldn't cast just a woman to play a character like that. But it just made me respect Jaime Sho even more. Like, fuck, he could just do it. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember in Tomoko Market, the KyoAni show, there's that case where you have a character you have a male voice actor. Who was the actor in that? But he's playing a woman in the show who like might be coded as trans, might not, but she's just a woman in the world of the show. And I remember commenting on that at the time of like, it's actually really cool to hear a talented male voice actor get to do that, because you get to hear it a lot the other way in anime, but it's fun to hear it with men doing it.
Yeah, and it just makes you realize that, again, I think the reason it doesn't happen is because there's no reason not to just cast. It's not like there's a shortage of women to cast to play women. But it's not like it's a skill level thing or that it couldn't be done. It like absolutely could. If you wanted to do, it just makes me think of like, Elizabethan theater that you had men play all the women. It's like, yeah, it could totally work. There's just not a reason to do it anymore.
Well, when you think of like the limited cases sometimes where you do get female voice actors in Japan getting to voice adult men, which you hear every so often. Like, I always think of, like, Nozawa Masako on Dragon Ball playing one of the many versions of Evil Goku, probably best being Goku Black, but there's also Turles in Dragon Ball Z Movie 3. And I'm like, they should totally do an anime that is, like, just gender swap every part and just have all the women voice men and men voice women and just have it be an exercise in voice acting. I would watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's like the kind of thing I was thinking watching the Lady Gable one is like there's no reason to do it, but it would be fucking awesome because it just shows how talented these people are.
Absolutely. But the real attraction here is OVA number 3, and it is, it's about an hour long. But it does play like, an anime movie from this period, a lot of which were like an hour long, particularly once you get into the 90s. Like, if you think of like the various Dragon Ball movies or other stuff like that, where it's take the characters. This one is more placed in the like timeline of the show. It's kind of vague, but you could slot it in and it doesn't break any continuity or anything. But you do that, and like it can't advance the story. You cannot have Daba go kill Oldna Poseidal at the end of this thing. So it can't have a like giant shift in the status quo, but it can just tell a slightly higher production. In this case, it's a very slight higher production value, but there are moments where you see more than I think you would get on the TV show. And just a focused story over an hour with these characters. And particularly, I have to say, I think for people listening, we recorded this stuff all out of order, so it's been about 2 months since we talked about L-Gaim together last. And going back after 2 months and watching this was so much fun because it just reminded me how much I fucking love Heavy Metal L-Gaim. And it gave, I don't know, if I were an OVA buyer in 1987 and what I wanted was another hour of that show I loved, I'd be over the fucking moon for this. Like, this is the good shit. It's got a new mech that is one of the best mechs in L-Gaim. It's got a villain who's literally controlling that mech by playing the piano. It's sick. It's got a great guest voice in Shibata Hidekatsu, who we'll talk about. I liked it a lot. It was fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's called Full Metal Soldier, and it does a couple of things. I mean, one, it has, for my reference point, it is very much the, like, old Dragon Ball Z movies. It is that style of thing, and I really enjoy that kind of, like, it sort of fits in the timeline, but it kind of gets to explore some other areas of the story in the world and some new characters that you otherwise wouldn't have seen. And it's a very, like, fast-paced, simple story, 50 minutes, you're in, you're out. It's just another way of spending time in the world with these characters. And I enjoy that. And I do think that sometimes in the more modern era of anime movies where you have kind of two versions of anime movies now. One that I think is typically really successful, which is we're adapting the continuation of the story as anime, a la like the Kimetsu no Yaiba movies. But you also do sometimes get these kind of like anime original ones, like the Sword Art Online has one or two of those. The I Was Reincarnated as a Slime has a couple of them. Like, it's pretty common for fairly popular anime to get anime movies that are kind of quote-unquote non-canonical, vaguely filling in the gaps kind of things, but now they have to be 90 minutes to 2 hours, and it's always something that's like, I miss when these could just be like 50 minutes, you're in, you're out, you're done, and it was really fun watching that with Full Metal Soldier. And I think it's also fun because it does fill in some stuff with Leshy and with the Extra 13 from the show that feels like the show in the first half would have benefited from some of this story actually being there contextually, because, it narrativizes more about the idea of Leshy having been a member of the Extra 13 and left them. And it's something where I think the show kind of had a hard time figuring out what to do with Leshy in the first half, and which is where they eventually kind of move her to a totally different position where she works better on the like other ship and she gets a redesign and all that. And narratively, she functions better there rather than just being comic relief. I wish that we had this story in the middle of the show where it like gives us some more of the drama around her family and that she lives on this planet and she was a member of Poseidon's army all stuff that we technically know about the character from the show, but was never dramatized. And I remember voicing some complaints in the first L-Gaim episode we recorded, where Leshy sometimes didn't feel like she lived up to the potential the character had. Now, I wish that she's a little bit too much damseled in this OVA, and I wish there was a bit less of that. But overall, some of that stuff is something I thought was really cool about Full Metal Soldier, and it filled in some legitimate gaps in the storytelling that L-Gaim had before it kind of locked in the second half.
Honestly, what it reminded me of in that way is the OVA for Violet Evergarden. And I know that's a very different show, but that is one where if you watch Violet Evergarden with the OVA, which was made later, but it slots into the main 12-episode run very cleanly. And if you watch it with the OVA in there, it's really hard to imagine Violet Evergarden without it, because that OVA does such a clear job of, like, what are a couple things that were just clearly missing from the show as we made it. Still a great show even without it. But I think you add that in and it really adds some emotional and, like, world building and character context. And I think if you could, like, identify a good point to insert this and recommend to first-time viewers, hey, watch Full Metal Soldier here, I think it would have a similar impact of, like, exactly for what you're saying. I think the Leshy side of it, absolutely. I also think just, like, the opening scene being a big meeting of the Extra 13, and they're all there, and you get to kind of see all of them in a room, and they bounce off of each other, that, I didn't realize, I think, how glaringly that is missing in the TV show, of that you have this organization, but they never have a proper, like, big meeting scene, which is just such a, like, archetypal thing for this kind of show and this kind of story. And I think just get that alone, I was, like, sold right from the beginning, because that is so much fun. And yeah, I think for those reasons, like the world building and the character stuff, it works really well. And I think you could also, if you watch this roughly where it's set and then continued, the whole thing where Amu winds up leaving the ship and then coming back in a new form as, like, a leader in Daba Myroad's larger revolutionary army, I think makes more sense. I think it adds more emotional context to her journey. And so it feels like a much more essential part of L-Gaim than I would have thought going in.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that topic of where it fits in, well, there was something very amusing I discovered. So on the Japanese Wikipedia page, there's just a comment that basically says it's set shortly after episode 18, which is probably about where, if you were to watch it, that would probably be where you'd want to do it. It broadly kind of fits there. But I discovered something that I thought was really funny, which is in the January 1987 New Type issue, which has a big 2-page feature that promotes the OVAs, which is infuriatingly written because it is written in the voice of Cow from L-Gaim, and then the second half of it's written in the voice of Gable, and it just drives you crazy trying to read this shit because, oh my god, reading the articles, like, you read New Type for the pictures and for the TV guide information because the articles are terrible. And part of the terribleness of the articles is that it very explicitly says that the third OVA, Full Metal Soldier, is set between episode 29 and 34, which is, episode 29 is when Leshy leaves the ship, 34 is when she comes back with her new character design as the captain of the Whale. And specifically says it is set between those episodes, and it explores what happens in that gap, which is not true. Like, it's just completely impossible. There's no way it would fit there. It makes no sense at all. It's an absolute utter lie. And I just thought it was really hilarious that it said that very, like, clear in black and white. I'm like, that's just, and I read that before I had actually seen the thing. So I thought that that's what it was, and then I started watching. I'm like, that's just not true at all. It is like the classic Leshy design. It's clearly before she has left the crew, or she would have joined the crew off screen and then left again off screen outside of this OVA. It's just very bizarre. Like, ultimately, I would say that this is, while I do think it can fit in somewhere after episode 18. It is kind of more like the old Dragon Ball Z movies you can kind of make it fit, but don't think about it too hard. Like, if you want to watch the cooler movie sometime when Goku and Gohan and Piccolo are training before the androids show up, that's fun. Don't think too hard about why Goku can't just go Super Saiyan, even though he should be able to go Super Saiyan until the end of the movie. Just don't care about it too much. It's fun to try to fit it, but just don't think about it too hard and you'll have a good time. And that's very much, I think, the attitude you should come in with this movie and how it works with the quote-unquote continuity of Heavy Metal L-Gaim.
Yes, and I would say it's more in that cooler vein versus like a, DBZ movie 8, the Broly one of like, okay, why are they having a wedding or like a party during the Cell games and everyone's together and then they go to, but then no one talks about, okay, don't think about it too. It's not that level of don't think about it too hard. It is more, as you say, in the cooler vein. But yeah, and again, I think largely because I think the characters are so on point and the world building feels like they really identified where's a place we can expand. I think it all fits in more smoothly than you would think. And it's a really fun watch. The production values, as we said, the animation I think is more on par with the TV show, but it's good. It's very consistent throughout this thing. And I think the ending is done very stylishly. The big, honestly, star of the show for me, Sean, is the score. The music is really good. Like, there's a lot of good original music. It's not just reusing tracks from the show. And particularly, like, the track that they use during the big Elite 13 meeting at the beginning is a really good, it's a very Star Wars-y kind of Empire's track. I really liked that. You get some good stuff in the middle of the OVA as well. You get some just killer songs for the insert and the ending at the end. So, all of that is a pleasure. And just like this part of the show, the early half of L-Gaim is such a fun episodic romp, basically, that having something going back to that style of what was early L-Gaim doing, but I think with a little more of the emotional and world-building heft that the second half of L-Gaim has, makes this kind of a sweet spot release where I'm like, this combines a lot of what I like about L-Gaim and kind of reconciles the two halves of this weird show.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that is how I felt about it as well. That it has some of like the narrative clarity of the second half with the more open episodic stuff and more of the humor of the first half. Because you do get to revisit, Leshy and Amu with their like rivalry over Daba and stuff like that. Like it's very clearly in that era of L-Gaim, even if it was made well after it. It is kind of playing around with some of those toys after we have the full narrative focus that the complete show had.
Yeah, absolutely. You do get two big new characters, one of which, let's start with the simpler one, is our new villain is Plata Quiz. How do you say it? Plata
I don't know.
Quiz?
This romanization was on their official website, so I just chose to be faithful to it. But it's Plata Quiz, Quoiz. It is... I don't know. It is probably not actually a Tomino name, but it's someone trying to be in the style of a Tomino name.
Indeed. But he's voiced by Hayami Sho, who, of course, we know as Burn Bunnings and Gavlet Gabale. Gabale is not in this one. So basically just Hayami Sho he's really just part of the main cast of Heavy Metal L-Gaim. So if Gavlet doesn't show up, why not make him another character? But this character gets to pilot a new mech, which is called the Pagorta. Yeah, which is a phenomenally awesome mech. Hayami Sho going for a very different kind of like crazy over-the-top villain. I love the super 80s design. This is a good villain. The final battle that you get between Daba and Plata is just outstanding. I like this dude, and I like having Hayami. It would not feel like L-Gaim if Hayami Sho was not in it.
Yes, I did crack up though when he opened his mouth and it was just Hayami Sho, and I'm like, okay, like, why not? Kamu and Maria plays two characters that are a member of the main crew, so why not have Hayami Sho? And his other role isn't even in this thing, so he can be here too.
Yes. I absolutely feel like it was a case where they wrote a script without Gavlet Gabale in it, and then they went to cast and they went, well, we can't do this without Hayami Sho. He's like one of the main voices of the series, and he's a fucking Swiss Army knife when you think about him going from Burn Bunnings to Gavlet and everything else he's done in his career. So absolutely, just have him be, and he puts the extra in Extra 13, Sean, because he's very over the top. I love the beginning where he's because the other main character here is Saiko Ada, who is Gauha Leshi's father. I don't know how names work on their planet, because there's no similarity in their names whatsoever. But he's just baiting this dude to punch him, and then he finally does, and so we all cheer because it's great.
Yeah, I do. Saiko Ada it's so good. I mean, one, it is really weird because he's Leshy's grandfather, and they refer to the Gao clan, the Gao Haleshi, and he's the grandfather, and clearly is like the head. He's the number one of the Extra 13. Like, that's one of the things this does, is it fills in. Giwaza was number 3. but he was always the guy who seemed to be in charge. And there was just mysteriously, we never saw who number 1 and number 2 are. So these 2 characters are the number 1 and number 2 of the extra 13. So there are actually now 13 of them, which is nice. It was always very conspicuous that they're called the extra 13, and there was only 11 of them. It was very weird. But yeah, he is supposed to be Leshy's grandfather. How the names work, absolute mystery. Presumably he's the head of the Gao clan, but isn't named Gao. I don't know. But he is voiced by Shibata Hidekatsu, who is, to me, he's the third Hokage in Naruto, is the voice I always think of. He's also King Bradley in Full Metal Alchemist, just like an all-time great voice actor. And it's absolute pleasure. And it's really funny that this is 1986, 1987, and he's still voicing characters like this, like 15 years before King Bradley. It's like, no, he's still that guy. Like, he was that guy in the 80s, he was that guy in the 90s, he was that guy in the 2000s, he's that guy in the 2010s. Like, he's just always played the older, super badass, like, incomparably powerful old guy who's, like, the head of the organization, whether that's the third Hokage, whether that's King Bradley, or it's number 1 of the extra 13, and just amuses me that he just seems to have always played those characters. But this character is awesome. The voice is incredible. And this is another moment where you realize that, you know, Star Wars is good, but Star Wars didn't invent shit, because this dude has 2 lightsabers and he combines them into the Darth Maul style saber staff. We already commented that L-Gaim had those for mechs, but I wonder if this is the first time we've ever had a double-sided lightsaber weapon wielded by a human being in a piece of media before. I mean, I have no idea if there's something that predates this one, but it is like very specifically exactly the Darth Maul lightsaber. But it's even more because it's 2 and they combine into 1, which is a later Star Wars thing that the games do and shit like that. And I just saw that, I'm like, this is crazy. Anime did everything before everything else did it. It's just fucking nuts.
No, I was having flashbacks, like playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and doing that, where you you can do 2 and then you can do 1. And the big scene where Saiko Ada gets on the turner and confronts Daba is such a dynamite scene. And especially when the lightsaber battle starts and he's got 2. There's that moment, this is a little more violent than the TV show, so you get like him burning Daba's skin and Daba has to pull away, and you get more of like the actual swordsman action that in the show tends to be a little more minor, but it's really, really cool here. And yeah, Shibata Hidekatsu, I just love that dude did not age between 1987 and like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood in 2009, because he sounds exactly the same. It's amazing. He's such a good voice for this kind of thing, where like either a kind of wise old figure, like, third Hokage kind of thing, or the like villain who has like a set of standards to him, like has a chivalry to him. He's really, really good at that. And in this case, this character is actually pretty complex, because I like how the way they kind of thread the needle of this cannot advance the overall story of L-Gaim, so we can't change the status quo. But how do you have an arc to it? And the arc winds up being this dude who at the beginning encounters Daba and he realizes his granddaughter is with him. And he's like, I do not get what you are trying to do, kid. There's 3 of you and there's a bajillion of us. And what the fuck are you up to? And like a good question, at this point in the series. And by the end, through seeing what Daba does, particularly how Daba forgoes chances to go for Poseidon's throat to save his friends and kind of the larger, structure of his little band, his little found family. He ultimately respects this dude, and by the end saves him from the rest of the extra 13 and lets him go on his way, and is like, I love, there's a line at the end where he says, I do not understand your way of life, but I hope I live to see it. And that's a great moment where it's like, what a great way to have a real arc to this thing that feels like it is in conversation with what Heavy Metal L-Gaim is doing as a story, without like trampling on the existing character arcs and stuff. They thread that needle really, really well here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like this character is just like the silver bullet of the movie, because it is, as you say, he's in many ways he's kind of the protagonist in the sense of that he is the one who goes through the growth. He's the one that the character arc is built around, and we're introduced to him right at the beginning. As this, we don't know what is his relationship to Leshy and stuff like that. And I love how, kind of stoic the character is and how little he plays, like, his hand, but you can see the kind of turmoil in that he does care for his granddaughter. He doesn't just want to see her be tortured and killed and all this kind of stuff. He clearly has some, because he's so much older than any other member of the Extra 13, other than like the one guy that Lily Hashi is paired up with in the second half, who gets killed. All the other Extra 13 members are clearly relatively young. You get the sense that he was part of those original wars and all that kind of shit that happened, whether the Second Saint War, whatever it was called. And he knows about the Yarmans, and you get that when he sees the L-Gaim and he realizes it's a Yarman design. And that he's been through all of this and he's seen the kind of rise of Poseidon's empire, and he kind of understands that it's probably like not a great thing for the world, but he also can't see a world that isn't dominated by some overwhelming martial force, because that's the world he comes from. And Daba has this other younger perspective. And yeah, I'm with you that last line of him saying, I understand your way of life, but I hope to be able to see it through to the end, is a great moment. And just that whole procession at the end where Daba and friends are surrounded by all of Poseidon's forces, and then Saiko Ada just comes up with his ship and says, no, this was a duel between the two of them. It's over. I watched it. He won. It's like, we have to let him go. And then that slow, tense moment of them leaving, and Nei Mohan there on the tension of, is she going to break this or not? And then ultimately she doesn't, because there's actual tension in that moment, because this dude, I was not sure if he was going to live or die. And at that moment, I was like, are they going to have Nei Mohan just blast this guy and kill him? And that's why he never shows up. Very conspicuously, this guy is not in the rest of Heavy Metal L-Gaim. They don't kill him. They explain that away as he leaves the military and he goes off to live on a farm somewhere or whatever. So he does survive. But I was impressed that because this is a thing that these kinds of stories can struggle with, is giving the audience a sense of stakes and drama for something where you know that nothing here can actually change the story we've already seen and that kind of stuff. But introducing a new character and making us really care a lot about him, it did have that tension at the end of not knowing who is going to live or die here. Is this going to work out for we know it's going to work out for Daba, but we don't know what's going to happen with this guy. And I thought that was a really impressive piece of writing they did for this character.
And a way to, I think, also thread the needle of giving this much bigger stakes than your average episode of L-Gaim. Yeah. Not the same stakes as like the full series, but in terms of individual stories, much bigger stakes. But also give us a reason why Daba, at this point in the show, makes it out. Because I think maybe end-of-series Daba in the L-Gaim Mark II could have gotten out of that situation if the L-Gaim Mark II were in good condition. At this point, he would be fucked if that dude didn't come in, because the L-Gaim is broken, it's missing an arm, Daba's almost dead, they're out of energy, and so it's a really good way to, I think, tie the character dynamics and the stakes of the story together. And yeah, it's a killer climax. I love that it ends on that quieter, really tense note. But before that, you also get just a phenomenal mobile suit battle between Daba and Plata. And there you have a good old-fashioned big anime fuck-off insert song moment. It's the kind of thing actually Tomino himself does not usually do, but other anime directors do it, and so you get this here of like, let's put in a big pop song over the final battle, and I understand why Tomino doesn't go in for that all the time, but I'm a sucker for it. And you have a song called Cool, where the chorus is literally just, isn't it just like, I'm so cool is the lyric,
yeah,
or something like that?
It, yeah.
It's crazy, but it's by Hiroe Jun, who is the vocalist of the song Silent Voice from Double Zeta Gundam, and it's a great song. I love how it's used. The overall choreography and animation of everything in that climax is just killer. It's this OVA gets to have its cake and eat it too by having a big rip shit action climax and then a nice quiet tense kind of after climax. It's really good.
Yeah, and it's definitely the big fight is where they spent their OVA,
Yes.
budget on, basically. Like, you could just, you can tell that this whole thing does not clearly have the same level of budget as other kind of fully original OVA projects have in the mid-'80s, but you do get some really incredible animation specifically in that fight, and the way the fight plays out is incredible, and the L-Gaim getting so completely fucked up, and, the ending of the fight where the L-Gaim is basically in like a headlock and the guy's the Pagorta has all these extra limbs, almost kind of like the O, which might be the inspiration for it, because the O from Zeta Gundam has all the little extra arms with beam sabers, and he starts sticking in all these beam sabers, and Daba has almost no power, and he diverts all the power to his one arm in the L-Gaim and deflects the last thrust up, and that goes through the guy's cockpit, and then you have this amazing piece of animation where they're in, this weird bioenergy enhancement chamber that kind of presages the end, the original Aj fight from the end of Heavy Metal L-Gaim. It's the same kind of thing. But you have that great visual of the guy like dying and then his distorted form turning to like this whirlwind that explodes as the bioenergy thing goes crazy. And that was like, okay, most of this this OVA had just felt like a longer episode of the TV show. This was a part I'm like, yeah, that looks fancier than anything the TV show did. It's not the most luxurious production in the world as far as OVAs go, but when it most is important, they did, do it where it most counts, I think.
Absolutely. And we got to talk about the Pagorta. What a fucking mobile suit. Or mech or heavy metal. Sorry. What a fucking heavy metal. I love this thing. It's like a lot of the later heavy metals in the show. It's an amalgam of like pieces from other ones. So it's like got these like strong gold parts that look like the Auge, but then a lot of it is more of this kind of like bronze color, but it's got these giant red pieces on the back that look a lot like the Kubele from Zeta Gundam. It looks like kind of a precursor. Well, I say precursor. Zeta would have already been made by this point, so there's that. It's got all the extra arms. The arms like are very skeletal. It's really cool. And then inside, you've got Plata just playing the piano. He's got several keyboards, and the score actually like foregrounds piano playing when he's doing that. So like it becomes part of the musical texture of the scene. Oh, what a fucking coup of like design and animation and music and everything. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then the like kind of the piece de resistance of the Pagorta's design is like the original Auge. It has a like chivalric symbol on it. It's got like a heraldry on it, which is also something the Auge had. That in that case it was like a Knights Templar logo or symbol. And here it's got a similar kind of thing. So it's clearly, I think they're communicating that this is some kind of heavy metal from the Second Saint War, and because it's got that more kind of 5-star story style design to it. And yeah, it's very cool. And it's a very complicated design, which I think is part of the thing where it's like the OVA gets to do a bit more with that. Because it's just got a lot more kind of fiddly pieces to it than most of the heavy metals have. And so the OVA, I think, it gets a little bit more space to be able to do more with this very complicated design here.
Yeah, but it rocks. It's very good. And just overall, I really enjoyed this. I'd happily watch it again. It reminded me of just how much I love Heavy Metal L-Gaim. It made me excited for those Blu-rays to finally come in at some point so I can look at this again. It's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this, it sort of is in my heart. It is very similar to the really good Dragon Ball Z movies from the 90s. That's just, It's got that like, if I wanted to touch some Heavy Metal L-Gaim again, like this might be one of the first things I would go to rather than start rewatching the old TV show. Here's like a 50-minute little piece of it that is very watchable and just has all the stuff you enjoy from the TV show packed into a nice little single video.
And we mentioned the insert song. You also have an original ending song by Mio, Seipai no Hohoemi. Whoa. And it's great. It's another Mio song. It's more of a ballad, more in the vein of like a Starlight Shower than a Time for L-Gaim. But it's great. Mio can fucking belt these things to the stars. Yep. It's really good. It absolutely sits alongside the other L-Gaim songs, and that is high praise because the L-Gaim songs rock.
Yes, and it's nice that at this point Tomino has moved on from Mio and has other singers that are also wonderful, but it's nice to get another good Mio song in a Tomino related project.
Oh, well, and Sunrise was not done with her because she's also going to do Stardust Memory around this, like a year or two later from this. So it's obviously Mio was not going anywhere, and she rocks.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else to say about these OVAs or Heavy Metal L-Gaim before we move on, Sean?
No, I think we're ready to do some rankings, Jonathan. Thanks for listening to Japanimation Station. If you're enjoying the show, please remember to like and subscribe, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and tell your friends.
You can also find us over at the Purely Academic Podcast, our potentially educational variety show where we talk video games, movies, TV, and more every month. And you can read my movie reviews and follow everything we release together on the Fade to Lack Substack at www.jonathanlack.com.
And now, back to the show.
All right, so we are going to do similar rankings to what we did on our annual Weekly Suit Gundam anniversary specials. If you are a longtime listener, you might remember some of these. So some of these are going to be, you and I are going to put our heads together and rank them as like a combined unit. Some of these we've brought our own top 10 lists. We're going to rank the series that we've watched so far. We're going to rank our favorite silly Tomino names, which secretly is our favorite list to do, I think,
Yes,
because it's so fun. We're going to talk about the best songs, and we're going to talk about the best mechs. Sean, why don't we start at the highest level? We have 7 shows that we watched for part 1 of Tomino-thon. We have Zambot 3, Daitarn 3.
Zambot 3! Sorry, you have to say it like that. I'm sorry.
Then we have 1, 2, 3, Daitarn 3. Then we have Mobile Suit Gundam. We have Space Runaway Ideon, Combat Mecha Zabungle, Aura Battler Dunbine, and Heavy Metal L-Gaim. We are going to do these live on air. And I think it's actually a pretty easy ranking because
very easy.
1, 2, 3 are Gundam, Ideon, and L-Gaim, right?
Oh, I thought 1, 2, 3 were Daitarn 3 and Zambot 3. Of course, those are the two best. That we could put Triton of the Sea on there as number 1. Of course, it was the greatest. It's Gundam as number 1.
Then it's Ideon.
Space Runaway Ideon, and obviously we're including the movies are there within the Ideon ranking. Then it's L-Gaim. Yes. Then do you want me to just say how I would rank these and then see if you would agree?
Well, yeah, but let's just stop for a second on these top 3. I mean, obviously we did not do a full rewatch of Gundam for this. But while we were obviously, I think Ideon is very up there. Like, it is in the conversation among Tomino's best works. I think then there is like a gap when you get to L-Gaim, but I think L-Gaim is very good. I think there's a gap beneath that again. But yeah, I think just to clarify, now that I've seen them all, I would still put Mobile Suit Gundam as Tomino's number 1 work, and I think Ideon is a very easy number 2. That's like, again, this was all new for me, at least Ideon and L-Gaim were. You had seen Ideon before, not L-Gaim, but these rankings feel very intuitive to me, and I assume they do for you too.
Yeah, like I think, Gundam is just such a special show. I mean, it's currently, my feeling, it's the best show that Tomino has ever made. And I have now seen all of his shows, so I could personally say that.
But you haven't seen Garzy's Wing.
I haven't seen Garzy's Wing, and I haven't seen the other Wings of Reen. I haven't seen that one either. So who knows? Maybe one of those two will be, truly the greatest Tomino work of all time. But Mobile Suit Gundam is either his best thing or it's number 2. But for me, I would still personally put it as his best thing. Space Runaway Ideon, I do think, is a very easy number 2, especially when you're including Be Invoked. Like that, like I think even without Be Invoked, the second movie, I still would probably put Ideon the best as a TV show. That's not as clean cut because L-Gaim is pretty fucking good, and Ideon has some slow bits. But once you include...
And L-Gaim finishes. That's the other big thing, is L-Gaim has an ending and Ideon just kind of cuts off.
Yeah.
And so L-Gaim...
There's something incredibly charming to me about the ending of the TV show version of Ideon, where it's just like, and that's when it happened. And I kind of, whenever I'm watching a TV show, I've always like kind of imagined, what if at this point it's just everything went black and white and the narrator came in and that's when it happened. And just everyone dies mysteriously. It's a great, bold ending. But when you include Be Invoked, which is also one of Tomino's best things ever, it's just no contest. I mean, that's the thing that gets you in the conversation of, you actually want to think about Ideon versus Gundam for a second, because Be Invoked is just that good. I still don't think it's enough for it to win over, especially when Gundam also has the Gundam compilation movies there, that they're also really fucking good, so that helps Gundam's case a bit more. But Ideon, it's just, that movie just gives it, I would think, an absolute silver bullet above any of these other things without a shadow of a doubt.
I think you're absolutely right. And I do think if you were just limiting it to the TV show, I would have to at least think a second on the Ideon L-Gaim thing, because L-Gaim is fully articulated as a television series. Ideon whatever your feelings on the ending, it is clearly not the fully articulated version of what Space Runaway Ideon was meant to be. But I think I probably... It's tough, though, because L-Gaim does have some real superlatives, and there's a reason it's our number 3 behind...
Yeah.
Look, there's no shame in coming in behind Mobile Suit Gundam and Space Runaway Ideon, which are 2 of the greatest shows ever made. L-Gaim, I don't think is one of the greatest shows ever made, but it's really fucking good. I mean, as 80s mecha anime go... It's hard to get much better outside of the masterpieces, the top shelf masterpieces, because L-Gaim is just, as a work of animation, the mecha designs are so superlative, the voice acting is great, it's so consistent episode to episode, that is, and I do think L-Gaim, for me and you, was like the discovery this season of shit, this show is, no one talks about it, and they should, because it rocks.
Yeah, there's a reason why it was really popular, like within the niche of mecha shows, because by the time we're at like the mid 80s, mecha is a relatively niche genre compared to what it had been in the heyday of the Super Robot era. But within that niche, L-Gaim was very popular. There's a reason why the characters won like popularity polls and all that kind of stuff. There's a reason why they went back even a year and a half later to do these compilations when everything else was doing the compilations for the OVAs basically right when they finished airing, because L-Gaim is a fucking awesome show. It just doesn't have the same level of narrative ambition and complexity of something like Ideon or Mobile Suit Gundam. But for the kind of world in which L-Gaim lives, it is incredibly good.
And, just a preview of what we'll be talking about on part 2 of our Tomino-thon this fall. It's a really important show for Zeta Gundam. Like, if you like Zeta Gundam, you should watch L-Gaim, because you don't get one without the other. All right, so after that, I think clearly Zabungle and Dunbine are 4 and 5. It's just in what order, right?
For me, it's very clearly, I would say Dunbine is 4 and Zabungle is 5. I don't know if you agree with that, but that is, I feel pretty strongly about that order.
I would agree. I don't know if I feel as strongly, because I mean, here's the thing. For me, Dunbine is a bigger work. It is a more influential work. I think it is more ambitious. At its highs are higher than anything in Zabungle, obviously. I think because of that, its lows are also more disappointing to me than the lows of Zabungle. But yes, Dunbine is a better show than Zabungle. And I will defend, I think Zabungle is a really fun show. It's got a problematic second half. Dunbine also has a problematic second half. But, Dunbine is also, there is nothing remotely like Aura Battler Dunbine out there. Even now in a world where we have a million isekai shows, none of them have quite the same bizarre gestalt as Aura Battler Dunbine. And... I had some trouble with the ending of Dunbine when we watched it. It is repeating the ending of Ideon, but in an even more kind of dark, hopeless fashion. But I will say it stuck with me. It's something I have come back to and thought about over and over again. And I have issues with that show, but, I do believe it is the better show than Zabungle pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, I do, definitely like that. Obviously, like the second half of Dunbine, I liked it more than you did, but it is, a very inconsistent stretch of the show. But that final moment is one that I think about every now and again, of Sho jumping and killing Burn Bunnings while shouting out, like, purify us, basically, Jokao, and everything exploding, and then the quiet ending with Cham in the narration, her leaving quietly in the middle of the night. It's like such an evocative moment for it to end on. And Zabungle, the first half of Zabungle I loved so much, but the second half of Zabungle just let me down. And that was maybe the hardest stretch for me to get through of anything we watched for this season. Was that like the kind of direst stretches of the second half of Zabungle, where it just felt like the same thing over and over and over again. If Zabungle had continued on the trajectory of quality it had in the first half, I think it would have a much better argument for being as good as, if not better than, Dunbine. But that second half for me was pretty brutal to get through in a couple of places.
And I think if Dunbine had a second half that was more consistent and better squared the circle between its kind of fantasy and realist elements, it would also be more competitive with L-Gaim. Yes. but, the inconsistency holds it back from the L-Gaim level. But again, I mean, those are, after we did the Dunbine episodes, as you might know if you've watched this podcast, I had to go back and do the AMV for our Beyond the Todd song we did. Which, if you noticed, there was a lot of editing in there because it's a 5.5-minute music video with 5 split screens constantly. So I edited about 25 minutes of stuff out of Dunbine, and it was mostly episodes. It was all episodes involving Todd Guinness. But still just going back through and they were all on my timeline. I had, 20, it was like 20 episodes times 25 minutes. I had hours and hours of Dunbine on there that I'm scrubbing through and having fond memories of oh my God, the look of this show is so unique. Oh man, this stretch is so good. Wow, this is so hypnotically weird. There's something about going back after a little time away and seeing the bug-like mechs in this high fantasy setting. There's nothing else like it. It's so weird. It's so cool. It's so Tomino.
Yeah, and Dunbine also has that, the episode 17 and the couple episodes after it where the first time show goes to the real world, which is one of the coolest stretches of episodes in any Tomino show. It's definitely, I think, the creative high of Dunbine is that whole arc and the way that the world treats Sho in his relationship with his parents. All that shit is so good and peak Tomino bullshit. It's great.
Yeah, and I really think however you come down on the end of Dunbine, I don't think that takes anything away from how good that early stuff is at all.
Yeah.
So yeah. But you would agree Zabungle is still above Zambot and Daitarn?
Oh, easily, yes.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. I think for me it's there's Gundam, there's a bit of a drop, there's Ideon, there's a bit of a drop L-Gaim, a bit of a drop Dunbine, a bit of a drop Zabungle, and then here is where I have a very hard time deciding which is better between Zambot 3 and Daitarn 3. I don't know.
Oh, this is easy. Daitarn 3 ends with one of the best episodes of Tomino's career. It's Daitarn 3. The main cast, I think, pops more. Zambot 3 arguably is more consistent as a watch, but Daitarn 3 builds to, I would argue, the moment Tomino Yoshiyuki arrives as the storyteller we know him to be. Historically, it is, I think, the more important Tomino show for just that last episode, if nothing else.
I'm glad you say that because that is what my heart is telling me is that Daitarn 3 is better, but I wasn't super confident. It's it's a little bit of a hard show to rank relative to these others because it is so different in structure. But yes, because I feel the same way about it, is that ending of Daitarn 3 is where you see Tomino poke his head up kind of in a weird way, and that he just couldn't do certainly in Triton of the Sea, and also not really in Zambot, even with as much Tomino juice as is in that show. And it's interesting because I do think the general narrative, both in the Western community and the Japanese community, is that Zambot 3 is the thing. That is the show where Tomino becomes Tomino. It's the Kill 'em all Tomino thing, all that. But I'm with you that actually stylistically it is that last episode of Daitarn 3. And Daitarn 3 obviously is less consistent. It's, this very episodic show. It's got some bunk episodes here and there. But it has some great episodes, and it has a one all-time masterpiece episode, which is the ending.
Yeah, look, if I'm making a top 10 list of Tomino episodes, I'm saving a slot for the last episode of Daitarn 3, easy. And I would have to think long and hard about what the other 9 are, because there's a lot of options, obviously, but I think it is a really important episode, and I think on a surface level, absolutely Zambot 3 has a lot of Tomino's voice, but it's not articulated yet. The Jigen Bakudan thing is the human bomb thing is a very Tomino touch that never feels fully contextualized in the way other dark story points will be in later stuff. The final ending of Zambot is very memorably, dark, but it doesn't have the impact of the ending of Ideon or Dunbine or Zeta Gundam in its kill-em-all nature, because of also its last-minute twist of you were evil the whole time, young man. And I'm oh, okay. Again, I think Zambot 3 is one where you can imagine all the things that would make it a great show, but they're not there yet. And there's no sin in that. There's no, that's how artists evolve. And it's an absolute must-watch if you like Tomino, because you get to see that voice grow over the course of the show. But that's also why Daitarn 3 is there. And I have to say, the show I struggled most with behind the scenes, we never talked about this on air, was Daitarn 3. It was not just the show. It was I was just having a very busy kind of dark month there while we were watching it, and my mood was not aligned with this kind of silly episodic show that could be very hit or miss. Daitarn is a very hit or miss show. But after finishing it, and after sitting on it for the months and months that we've been going through everything else, my memories of it just get more and more fond, and I do, when I have a free moment, I would like to go back and give parts of that series more of a chance than I think I did, especially because we say the final episode, but there are pieces throughout. There is the character Korosu, who appears more than just in that final episode. There's that stretch in the middle where we get Banjo's backstory. There's individual episodes like the one where he's lost in space after escaping when his parents are killed. You know, there is more Tomino in it than I think it sometimes gets credit for. And that main cast is just very endearing, of Haran Banjo and his ladies and his butler and the little boy who hangs around. It's just a cool show. And honestly, I think I said this on the Daitarn episode, but I think of everything Sunrise owns the IP for that I would like to see them revisit, they should make a Daitarn 3 show again. They should, and it doesn't even need to be called that, just make the Haran Banjo show. I don't even know if it needs the robot, because that's the biggest problem with Daitarn 3, is I don't think the robot adds anything to the show. But I would love to see the basic premise of Daitarn 3, of this cool, suave, James Bond-esque dude named Haran Banjo, whose dad accidentally invented the killer robots that are destroying everything, and has this, is kind of like Batman, but if Batman were more, if Bruce Wayne's like Playboy persona were Batman, that's who Haran Banjo is, and he's got his, his ladies, and he's got all this stuff. Like, that would be a cool show to revisit and do something new with. I think there's a lot of juice in there that was left unsqueezed, and so I have a lot of affection for it.
I'm just so happy right now to hear you speak so highly of Daitarn 3, because I do, my impression was that you just, and again, there was like other stuff going on that you just weren't particularly into it, because I enjoyed Daitarn 3 a lot. And so, I'm very happy with these rankings.
I think I hit it in that episode because I didn't want to be too hard. I knew other stuff was going on. So I don't know if listeners know that. This was more behind the scenes stuff, but yeah, I think it is is it as good as the top 5? Obviously not. But honestly, if I were to tell you one show of Tomino's 3s, Daitarn 3 versus Zambot 3, which one do you need to watch as a Tomino fan? I do think it's Daitarn more than Zambot.
Yeah, I'm here for you. Yeah, absolutely.
So here are our rankings. I think this is sometimes on Weekly Suit Gundam it would get controversial and you and I would argue that this is easy. We agree completely about this top 7, which is nice. So yes. Number 7, Zambot 3.
Number 6, 1, 2, 3, Daitarn 3.
Number 5, Combat Mecha Zabungle.
Number 4, Aura Battler Dunbine.
Number 3, Heavy Metal L-Gaim.
Number 2, Space Runaway Ideon.
And number 1, Mobile Suit Motherfucking Gundam. With a bullet.
The Weekly Suit Gundam guy said Mobile Suit Gundam's the best one. Weird. Who thought that would happen?
All right. You want to move on to an even more fun ranking, Sean?
Yeah.
All right. Let's rank some Tomino names. So you and we have not consulted at all on this, but we both brought a top 10 list of our 10 favorite names. Now, we are leaving off Mobile Suit Gundam for this ranking because it's just too difficult. We've talked about Gundam so much. We've done rankings of the silliest Gundam names. And as you said in a text message to me, Sean, I don't think we need to have the Jimbaral, Rombaral conversation again. We've had it. It's wonderful. But let's celebrate all the other names.
Yeah, and this was a hard enough list. Yes. I've got a very long list of honorable mentions we can talk about after the top 10. And it's like Gundam names would just make it cruel to deal with. So, absolutely.
I was trying to include some in my first draft, and the ones that I felt were essential from Gundam were Jimbaral, Shar Aznable, and Slegger Law. But then you could also go with Job John. Yeah. There's Fraubo. Yeah,
Job John's a big one for me. Job John's, that's what a name, Job John. What?
So, look, we love the Gundam names, but let's celebrate all the ones from the other shows. So, Sean, I'll let you start. What is your number 10?
All right, my number 10, you know him, you love him, from Heavy Metal L-Gaim, it's Hashimosha.
Good.
You have to include the glottal stop. It is Hashimosha. It's not Hashimosha, it's Hashimosha.
I think you clearly are thinking about this the same way I did, where the more I thought about this list, the more of what rose to the surface for me was It was the mouthfeel. It's just the way the sounds come out of the mouth when saying them. How much pleasure you get in hearing the voice actors say the name. And I think that is why Hashimosha is... It's not on my list, but I'm glad it's on yours. It's a good one.
Yeah, I had a long back and forth with a bunch of names for number 10, and I just kept on thinking back to when this dude showed up when I played Super Robot Wars Y, and just the delight I had at a guy named Hashimosha, and I'm like, this is great. And then once I saw the character, I'm like, that's Hashimosha. Look at this fucking dude.
My number 10, I cheated on, but I think you will admit this is a worthwhile cheat. This is a tie between 5 of the various Buff Clan commanders from Space Runaway Ideon.
So one thing before you say it, this is one of the things I struggled with. I ended up not including the Buff Clan names because I couldn't pick any of them. And I could, because it just had no way of deciding which one was the best one. I just kind of left them off. So I'm glad that you just said, fuck it, and just put a bunch of them in one category, because they are the most bonkers names Tomino has ever come up with.
And it is the accumulation of them over time that makes them so great. So here's what I've got. I've got Gubaba Geba, Galbaba Gura, Abadede Gurimade, Gyamus Ragu, and Rukuku Kiru. And I, talk about, every newscaster in the country needs to throw out whatever fucking, word games they play, but the tongue twisters they play before going on the air, and just try to go, Gubaba Geba, Galbaba Gura, Abadere Gurimade, Gyamus Ragu, Rukuku Kiru. Just do that over and over again, because that is the greatest tongue twister of all time.
Yes, I mean, it is like when you just go down the list of the names of all the Buff Clan characters, it is like a magic spell. You're trying to cast this, like Karara Ajiba, Hararu Ajiba, Doba Ajiba, Gizei Zararu, Abade Bagurimare, Garu Babagura, Gamzu Ragu, Kia Bufu, Guba Bageba, Gurabara Don, Godamon Muron, Shiraku, Shirubaru Doku, Zudaka, Zekidan, Domida Bechi, Doba Bufu, Narubu, Bujurao Kiruba, Hannibal Gen, Biras, Nebaru Rao, and Rikuku Kiru. What drugs was Tomino on when he came up with these fucking names, man?
And Ideon is definitely the show that most feels like Tomino was on drugs. So that makes sense. And I didn't include any of the main character Buff Clan members on that list, because obviously they could be just their own top 10 list items. But yeah, just the accumulation of every episode getting another absolutely bonkers Buff Clan name is one of the great joys of a show that is otherwise pretty dark and heavy.
Yeah, and then once you just start hearing people have to seriously say Guba Bageba, referring to a character, you're like, what is happening here?
So good.
All right. So my number 9, I'm going with another Heavy Metal L-Gaim name. This is one I've loved for a very long time. It's my boy with the beard. It's Amandra Commandra, the world's best arms seller, Amandra Commandra. A name that I don't know if he came up with that name on his own or if that was his birth name. I mean, he's a guy who's shrouded in mystery. But when you get a dude with a red trench coat, a big fucking beard and sunglasses walk up and he says, "Hi, my name is Amandra Commandra," I'm like, yes, it is, sir.
Wonderful name. It's not on mine because I thought it was going to be on yours. And I'm glad it is, because it deserves representation here.
Yeah. This is another one that when I was playing Super Robot Wars, I'm like, what is happening? Who is this guy? And why is his name Amandra Commandra? And it was very good.
All right, number 9. It may be the worst Tomino show, but it has one of the best Tomino names. It's from Zambot 3, and it is our big bad, Killer the Butcher. Kilaza Butcha, Butcha, as they would say. This is really there because of all the high-pitched voice, lackeys who get to come in and say Butcha Saba, and it's awesome. And I love just the fact that there's a main villain named Killer the Butcher, and at the end of the series he is blowing people up with bombs he's implanting in their chest. That is the reason to watch Zambot 3, is the fucking goofiness of this guy doing the things he does.
Yeah, I'm glad he's not on my list. It was that was one of the ones that was a very close number 10 for me that Hashimosha won out on, but Killer the Butcher, it's so good. It's such a ridiculous name. And you're right that it's how ridiculously kind of grimdark the name is, and then you see the actual guy and all of his little hench dudes, and you're like, this guy's killing the Butcher. Fantastic.
Excellent. All right, your number 8.
All right, my number 8. I love this so much. From 123 Daitarn 3, it's beautiful Tachibana, often known by the name Beauty, but let it be known her given name is just the word beautiful. Her surname is Tachibana, and everyone calls her Beauty. And I can't get over that her name is just beautiful.
It's on my honorable mentions. It was like a hard cut. You are so right. Just right. And I wrote it out the way you had it written in the notes for that episode, which is beautiful, quotes, beauty, Tachibana. And just seeing that, beautiful, beauty, Tachibana. Oh, it's so good. Oh my God. Daitarn 3 has some really good names, but yeah, that's a great one.
It's the most like somebody told Tomino what a Bond girl was, and he had to come up with a character. And that's how beautiful Tachibana happened.
Absolutely. Love her. Another character, another woman with an out there name. This is from Space Runaway Ideon. My number 8 is Kitty Kitten. I was Kitty Kitten, and I'll admit, for this slot, Sean, I was choosing between this and another name that's kind of similar, Carrying Cargo from Zabungle. And honestly, the difference for me is that when Carrying dies, his head doesn't fly at the screen in spectacular animation while the protagonist weeps over the death of his girlfriend, whose real given name is Kitty Kitten.
Also, that Kitty Kitten might show up on my list somewhere.
Okay.
So I'll save my comments for then.
Then you're number 7, Sean.
My number 7, from Space Runaway Ideon, it's everyone's favorite baby. It's Piper Lou. What a great baby name Piper Lou is. Only outdone by the wonderful Carl Man from Victory Gundam. But if you want some good baby names, you gotta go to Tomino, because Piper Lou, it's so wonderful. I just like looking at it. I like hearing people say it. It's Piper Lou.
It's Piper Lou, and he's always Piper Lou, too. They never call him Piper. They never call him Lou. He's Piper Lou. This was also on my honorable mentions, also a hard cut. Glad it is on yours. And Piper Lou, given his, thematic centrality to what the series is, he's a very important character. He is more central than, Carl Man is in Victory Gundam. But yeah, I love my Piper Lou. He's great. I'm going to name my firstborn child Piper Lou.
Exactly. Yes. It's Piper Lou Chapman. Here we go.
Piper Lou Lack is actually pretty good.
It is actually pretty good.
The alliteration, yeah. So, maybe that might be a hard sell to my eventual spouse. But, yeah.
Look, there was this anime, and there was a baby in it. It's our universe only exists because this baby happened, okay? It's important.
Please don't leave. Yes. All right. Your turn. No, it's my turn. That was your number 7, right?
Yes.
Okay. My number 7 is, based on my list, my second favorite Tomino protagonist name of this half of the season, and maybe ever, and that is Daba My Road from Heavy Metal L-Gaim. This was a last-minute addition, actually, to the list. I had kind of taken it for granted, and then we watched the OVAs for the first half of this episode, Sean, and I just remembered, oh my God, because it's with the main name, sometimes you take them for granted because you hear them so much, but then you take a little time off and you go back, you're like, no, the main character is Daba My Road. And they call him Daba a lot. Daba alone is a great name. I love hearing it come out of the voices of all these actors. But you put it all together, and it's Daba My Road. I think he gets extra points because his dad's name is Come On My Road, or Come On My Road, which sounds...
That's his normal name.
Oh, no, that's his normal name. Yes.
And the Daba is his alias that he uses.
What's his dad's name? Because it's cool, too.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I can look it up.
It's Kamon something, because...
Yes.
Lest we forget that Kamon is his surname and My Road is his given name. That is a thing. Daba My Road didn't make it onto my list, but it was in consideration, with the main reasoning being the madness of when I realized watching the actual show and not playing Super Robot Wars that Daba wasn't his given name, that it was My Road, but everyone just calls him Daba anyways, because you can't, in a serious voice, say My Road on its own is just an impossible name.
Yeah. So anyway, no, yes, I had forgotten the exact order of those details, but yes, Daba My Road, legendary name, absolutely incredible. I just love saying it. Daba My Road. Oh, it's so good. So that's my number 7.
It's a fantastic name. All right, my number 6, also from Heavy Metal L-Gaim. I love this name. I love this character. I love everything about it. It's Full Flat.
Not on mine, but I'm glad it's on yours. Yes, and another one that gets easy to take for granted, given how much they say it down the home stretch. But no, her name is just Full Flat. A precursor to Full Frontal from Unicorn Gundam.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons is the realization of like, oh, Full Frontal that's not even a thing. It's Full Flat. It's this lady. This is another one. Like some of these names are very much a when I played Super Robot Wars Y without having seen these shows, and this person just shows up on the screen and the name Full Flat. I'm like, who is this person? How did this name happen? It's so good, and it's one of those of where it's like such a silly name if you're an English language speaker, but then once you start getting into the show, it's a good name for Dabamiro to scream, in anger in the middle of a fight is Full Flat. It works great for the show.
Absolutely. All right, my number 6. This is going back to Space Runaway Ideon. I love this character, but I love her name even more. It is the one, the only Cheryl Formosa. Cheryl alone, not an unusual name. It's spelled wrong with an S, but that's fine. It's Cheryl, okay. But her last name is Formosa. Formosa on its own as a last name, pretty out there, but not the most out there Tomino name. But there's something about the gestalt of putting Cheryl and Formosa together, and her name is Cheryl Formosa. Listen to that come off of your lips. What a fucking masterpiece of a name.
Yeah, if this one's not on, I knew it was going to be on your list. It didn't quite make mine. It's in my honorable mentions though. And yeah, it's the mouthfeel, and it's especially it's the name tied with the character. There's something about that woman being named Cheryl Formosa that makes it even better.
Absolutely. So that's my number 6.
All right, we're now getting into the top 5. My number 5, a name, as we all know, with a rich Anglo-Saxon heritage. It's our girl, Marvel Frozen from Aura Battler Dunbine. It was already a great name. It got pushed over the edge to me in that scene in Dunbine where they're discussing her name. and it's like, what? It's an Anglo-Saxon name. It's like, no, it's not. It's really not. Trust me, Marvel Frozen, not Anglo-Saxon.
But wonderful all the same. I love that it also sounds like it could be a mobile game. Like there's Marvel Snap. Is there going to be Marvel Frozen? It sounds like when, you know what? This could happen because Disney owns all of it. It's when Marvel does their crossover with Frozen and Olaf fights Iron Man or whatever, and you get your Marvel Frozen game. Still would not be as good though as the actual character who we love, Marvel Frozen.
Yes. Also, lest we forget, she's from fucking Texas. This is a Texas girl born and bred named Marvel Frozen. And I know I'm not originally from Texas, but I've been here for like 5 or 6 years at this point. I still haven't met the Frozen family yet. I haven't seen them living on a ranch somewhere. But I got to figure that out. I got to find where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? You're off for the summer, Sean. You've got time to drive around the state. You might not want to because of gas prices at the moment, but you could.
Yeah, it's a pretty big state, but they got to be out there somewhere living on that farm.
All right. My number 5 is also from Dunbine. It's also a proud Anglo-Saxon name. It's our boy from Boston, Todd Guinness himself. I think of look, on the level of mouthfeel, it's not the best name in these top 5. But it is the biggest laugh I have ever gotten out of a Tomino show name reveal. Is when you get the blonde boy from Boston coming out of the mobile suit and introducing himself to Shozama as Todd Guinness. Oh my fucking God. And honestly, I was telling my brother who did the Beyond the Todd song for us, the other day I told him we were doing this name ranking, and he said, Todd Guinness better fucking be your number 1, given the amount of work you made me do on that thing. And I'm like, he's my number 5. And he's like, fuck you. And I'm like, okay. But, again, I adjusted the lyrics to that song myself, so I got to put, Todd Guinness's name into the lyrics of Beyond the Time, and I've never been happier doing anything in my life.
Yeah, this is another example of one that I knew was just going to be on your list, so I didn't even bother. I was like, well, I'll let Jonathan talk about Todd Guinness. It's a fantastic name. It's just one of the all-time great anime American names, and it's another one there. It's like, it's that guy. It's that face. It's that attitude. It's that story. And all of it's about Todd Guinness. And of course, that there's an episode called Beyond the Todd. Is an all-timer. Yeah, it's great.
And that he turns out to be one of the richest characters on the show by the end. That he genuinely, even when Dunbine is at its most creatively kind of messy, Todd Guinness becomes sharper and sharper and sharper in his characterization. So the fact that it's tied to like one of the strongest parts of that show that you can also laugh at and meme really helps.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, my number 4, this is one you had a little bit earlier, but I put it higher up on my list because I've loved this name for so long. It's Space Runaway Idion's Kitty Kitten, or Kichi-Kichin if you're saying it in Japanese, which is one of the reasons it's so good, is the mouthfeel and getting the voice actors like Shioya, who plays Yuki Cosmo, saying Kichi-Kichin is just fantastic. Just everything about, again, it's not her nickname is Kitty. No, her parents, the kittens, had a daughter, and they decided to name her Kitty. Like, that's how this woman came about. And just when you think about everything, it's very much like Beautiful Tachibana for me. It's one of those of like, as soon as you start thinking about the circumstances upon which this person would have ended up with this name, it just makes it all the better.
Okay, this begs the question, is this like an ancestral name where like generations of kitten women have been named Kitty Kitten? Or is this, there had never been a Kitty Kitten and the family decided, oh my God, it's so obvious we've never done it. This girl shall be the first Kitty Kitten. Yes. Either answer is delightful, honestly.
Yeah, she might be Kitty Kitten the 13th, or she might be the very first, who knows?
All right.
Unfortunately, we know that she's the last, is one thing about the ending of Space Runaway Idia.
All right, number 4. This is from Combat Mecha Zabungle. It is one of the most minor characters on this list, but it is one of the most fun names to say and to hear said, and that is Plopopiefu. Plopopief. It's one of the most fun to type. It is one of the most fun to hear. It is one of the most fun to say. It is purely here for the mouthfeel, and the mouthfeel of Plopopief is exquisite.
It's absolutely phenomenal. He's not on my list, but he was in my my honorable mentions. That was one of the first ones I wrote down. I was like, I know Plopopieff, he's in consideration. Another one I knew would be on your list.
Yeah, Plopopieff. Oh my God, so good. So good.
So good.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're in top 3 territory. My number 3. This was for a while something I was kind of considering for number 1 because I have such a powerful memory of encountering this dude in Super Robot Wars Y well before seeing the show and having my mind blown by the name Shot Weapon. He is the evil scientist
so glad he's
who
on your
designed
list.
the Ore Machines, and his name is Shot Weapon.
Yes, it's not on my list. I was hoping it would be on yours because, yes, it's not the most fun mouthfeel name, but it is the most fun, this dude's name is Shot. So again, the Weapon family named their son Shot, and then he brought weapons of mass destruction to a fantasy realm. What a nomenclatural piece of destiny.
Yeah, and again, the way I first encountered this dude was just playing this game, and all of a sudden there's a scene where there's just like a 2D like image of this weird blonde dude wearing robes, because he's like the most extra motherfucker in that whole show. He's always wearing these weird like ceremonial robes, and you just see like someone come up and it's like, Shot, is that you, Shot? Is it really him? It's Shot Weapon. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who is Shot Weapon? Who is this guy? How did he end up with this name? And then I slowly realized, oh, he's from Dunbine. Of course, this is who this guy is. He's from a Tomino show, and his name is Shot Weapon. That tells you everything you need to know. One of the ones where it feels like I had that quote from Tomino from the L-Gaim kind of like thing they did before the debut of that show, where he had a Q&A with an audience, and the first question was, how do you come up with the names? And it's like, sometimes like I come up with it before bed or whatever. Is like, this is one where I think he was on the toilet and he came up with it. Like, it's just that scenario where he's like, he gave up. He's like, I want to do the thing where I'm going through the fucking lexicon of all the syllables in Japanese and just putting it together. He's an evil guy. He makes weapons. What's his name? Ah, fuck it. It's Shot Weapon. And he just went with it, and nobody told him no. And it's wonderful.
It's so good. It's so good. But also good. My number 3. This was a dark horse for me. I didn't realize how much I loved this name until I went back and started thinking about it. This is from Heavy Metal L-Gaim, and it is our girl, Kuwasan Olibi.
Kuwasan Olibi, yes.
So good, and she's so central to the second half of this series that you get to hear people say Kuwasan and, Kuwasan Olabi or just Olabi or one or the other, but it's good in any configuration over and over again. It is so central to the second half of that show, the texture of it, the name Kuwasan Olabi. I just love saying it so much. I love how it's written. I love that it is romanized with a Q. That is, obviously there is no Q in like katakana, so it's just a ku. But the Kuwasan with the Q-U-W-A, there's something about that is just irresistible, and then it being Olabi. It's just such a perfect name. It is so good. It is so, again, the mouthfeel of it is off the fucking charts.
It's phenomenal. It's not on my list. I'm glad it's on yours. It's particularly, it's getting Daba's voice actor.
Yes.
Just does such a good job. Kwasan Orabi! And the way he shouts that name with such passion, it's incredible.
Absolutely.
All right. My number 2, this is a man you mentioned in passing earlier, but for me, this name made me question things. It made me think deeply about the world. It's Carrying Cargo. There's no way this would not be super high on my list. When I
That's why it's not on mine. I just knew, yeah.
I looked back on it, I'm like, he came up with a dude named Carrying Cargo, and he's the father of one of the main characters who is Elchi Cargo. Her father is carrying, and what does he do? He drives a ship that carries cargo. And there's so much packed in with this name. One is that it is, unlike some of like Shot Weapon, which is another just ridiculous name, Carrying Cargo is both ridiculous and it has a phenomenal mouthfeel. Like, it is so fun to say Carrying Cargo. But also, it was when watching the show and the amount of time it took me to realize that they were talking about a person and that they weren't referring to the action of carrying cargo. It was like 2 or 3 episodes before I put it together that was the guy's fucking name. And that's a special thing that, like, I don't know if I've ever encountered that in another piece of media where I didn't understand they were saying the person's name the whole time. Because what they were doing was carrying cargo. Little did I know that, that whoever named this dude did a great job, because that's what it's all about. He's the son of the cargo clan. What does he do? He carries it. He's carrying cargo.
Can you imagine if we did this with American shows? Can you imagine if on Law & Order, Jack McCoy was shuffling paper or whatever it would be for a lawyer doing, and that's just his name. He's from the paper family. They named him Shuffling, and so he does a job where he has to shuffle a lot of paper. Like, but it's carrying cargo.
Now you're saying this, but now I'm just imagining, like, them making a new Law & Order where you have a Japanese lawyer whose name is Ben Goshi, because if people who don't know, the Japanese word for lawyer is Bengoshi. I need Benjamin Goshi, attorney at law, and I need him now. It would be a pretty good show.
He's the half Japanese, half American.
Yes.
His father was something Goshi, and his mother is American, and she wanted to name him Ben. Obviously, his last name is Goshi, and he's Ben Goshi, and the nomenclature of it, he had to go to law school. He had no choice.
It's Ben Goshi the Bengoshi. Let's go.
Oh, so good. Yeah. Carrying Cargo. And, I also think, easy to forget, Elchi Cargo is also a great name.
Elchi Cargo is a fantastic name. It's where you don't know how the process happened. Did he come up with Elchi Cargo first, realize that cargo was a word that existed in English that meant a thing, and it was like, oh, I can do something incredible here. There's like a moment of serendipity. I have to come up with her dad's name, who's going to die in like 3 episodes. He's not an important character. So I could come up with a throwaway name, and he's carrying cargo. Like, I don't know what the process was, where it all came about, but yes, like, because Elchi Cargo is one of the most important characters in the whole show, and her name is like a joke, it feels like, because her dad is named Carrying. Like, I would never think that her surname Cargo would be connected to the word cargo, meaning like stuff you're hauling, if her father's name wasn't Carrying.
Maybe he named her that to free her from the horrible burden of his life of transporting cargo. He's like, you need a different name. You are Elchi Cargo. It's so good.
Yeah. My father's name was Lifting. His father's name was Moving. I've got to break the curse.
My number 2, and it's appropriate as number 2, because this is the name so nice Tomino used it twice, and that is Gavalet Gabalet. What a perfect Such a good name. You cannot blame him for using it twice. Obviously, we get it on Zabungle as Miss Gavlet Gabalet, and it would have been here regardless of if he used it again. But then it becomes the absolute fucking delight of the character of Gavalet Gabalet-san in L-Gaim. Our Team Rocket figure of the first half of the show, a surprisingly complex, chivalric character in the second half of the show, but always he is Gavalet Gabalet. I love how it is spelled. I love how you say it. It is the best example of Tomino's, the way you have the two words kind of mirror each other. It's incredible. You have to say it all at once. You can't just say one. You have to say Gavalet Gabalet. And I remember so vividly realizing that was a character's name in Zabungle, and in my handwritten notes getting to write it out and discover and I remember I wrote Gavalet Gabalet as it is Romanized, and then I wrote the phonetic pronunciation as if I wasn't going to remember it, to just know this is how it says. It's Gavuletto Gabule. That is the name. And I think I just sat there with the show paused for a minute in awe. What a fucking name. What a name.
It's a brilliant name. It's an absolutely brilliant name. I mean, it's one that Tomino knew was brilliant because we now know that he came up with it for that Star Wars based thing that he was going to do that eventually turned into L-Gaim. He used it in Heavy Metal or in Combat Mecha Zabungle, and he was like, I can't leave it alone. It's such a good name. I got to bring it back again come hell or high water. And he just used it again anyways. I still remember very fondly that moment on air when we were talking about Zabungle, and I realized, wait, wasn't there a guy in Super Robot Wars named Gavalet Gabalet? There's no way. And then looking at it, it's oh shit, yeah, no, that's just, he does just use this name again. It's fucking crazy, but I understand why, because it is an amazing name.
Is it not on yours?
It is not on mine. It's in my honorable mentions.
Okay.
I'm wondering, Jonathan, if our number one might be the same.
I think it's the same.
Is your number one from Invincible Superman Daitarn 3?
Let's do it on 1, 2, 3, Sean.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Haran Banjo.
It is the best Tomino name. It is the best Tomino name. It is so it is not as extravagant as all these others, but there's just something perfect about the first name Haran, end on that Banjo. It is magical. I could say it all day. It is also, I used it when I played the Dragon Quest 1 HD2D remake last year. I named my hero Haran Banjo, and there was something about playing a 30-hour JRPG and seeing Haran Banjo every time come up, where I'm I just need to use this for every JRPG. It's the best name ever. It is his masterpiece. Absolutely.
Well, I don't know if you know this, Jonathan, because there's something I learned. I mean, I think it was literally 2 to 3 days after we finished doing the Daitarn 3 podcast, which is that Haran Banjo is an existing Japanese phrase that exists, that he has taken as a name. Haran Banjo, it's not a common expression. What it means in terms of if you use it what it's meant to express is something that is full of ups and downs, or something that is full of extremes, like great heights and great lows. What it literally means, if you break down the kanji, is it's violent waves of great height. Haran is violent waves, Banjo means great height. And so Tomino took this, not incredibly obscure, but relatively obscure Japanese phrase, realized that Banjo is a Japanese given name that people have, like Ikinga Banjo. I know that's his stage name, but it's obviously also a real name. And he's like, what if this dude's name, this man of violent waves of great height, this man full of extremes, what if he was just named Haran Banjo? And that's when I told this anecdote on the podcast. I just didn't understand the full context of the origins of where he got it from the kanji, was him then going around the office so excited about him realizing that he could have this name that he just went around and told everyone, this is what his name is. We're going to call him Haran Banjo. And a legend was born. And it's so good. The mouthfeel is so good. But I also like it even more knowing where it comes from, and that it's a very rare instance of him doing the Tomino name thing, but not with an English language name, or like an approximation of what he thinks an English language name is, and instead with something that is a fully Japanese name, which is not a thing he does with his other, in like Zambot 3, we have Japanese named characters with kanji names. It's very rare for Tomino to come up with a kanji name, and with Haran Banjo, he pulled his magic in his own native tongue, and I think it was inevitable that it would end up being his best name of all time.
It's the only name where I'm fairly confident the show wouldn't exist without it. Like, I'm fairly confident Tomino wouldn't have gotten over the finish line of making 40 episodes of Daitarn 3 if he didn't have that name fueling him through the process. And absolutely, I did not know that, Sean. That makes it even better, as if it could be any better. And yeah, this is easy. This is an easy number one.
Yeah, but it's the first thing I wrote down was Haran Banjo, and then I'm like,
yes.
Okay, now where do I go from here? Was then the question I asked myself.
And again, this is why I think we need a Daitarn 3 revival. I think you call it something like Haran Banjo no Densetsu, or something like that, The Legend of Haran Banjo, and I need more with this character so that we can have more adventures hearing people say this name.
It's so good. It's just an all-time great. Like when I played the PS1 era Super Robot Wars game Alpha, and he's in there and he showed up, I'm like, here he is. It's my guy. It's my boy. It's Haran Banjo. And the couple times you get little voice lines in that game and you hear people say it, it's like, yes, I want to hear every voice actor in Japan say the word Haran Banjo talking about this fucking guy.
Sean, I'm amazed we got through that and we had barely any overlap on our lists. Yeah. I think it was just Haran Banjo and Kitty Kitten. And otherwise, we predicted each other's obsessions and or just didn't overlap because there's such an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, because most of the names in my honorable mentions were the ones on your list. But I want to run through a couple of other ones that didn't get mentioned that I love. One that I knew wouldn't be on your list because it's one I think that I really attached to, and I kind of wanted to put it up there, but I just couldn't make an argument for it above these others. But I do love El Condor so much from Zabungle, and it specifically was the realization that it's not the Spanish word El meaning the El Condor. It's just his first name is ELL, El Condor, and because somebody just calls him El in that episode. He's like only in one episode of that fucking show, but when that happened, my mind was blown. Like, oh, he's not the Condor, El Condor. He's just El, son of the Condors. It's crazy, but it's a great name.
The hardest cut for me was another L-Gaim name, very minor character, but it's Murph McToman, member of the Elite 13.
A big one for me too, yes.
Murph McToman is that sounds like that should be the star of a noir about a private detective who drinks hard and stays up all night, smoking cigars. Murph McToman, you go to him if your daughter's been kidnapped, and he'll get her back, but he'll be miserable. It's such a good name.
Yeah, great. That is another great name. Another L-Gaim one I have that I just love. This is another one I think that's very easy to take for granted, is Oldna Poseidal.
Yes.
It's just one Poseidal as the name of the evil empire is fantastic, but also this ancient being that is called Oldna. It's very good. And just getting it's another one of just getting Daba's voice actor getting the shout, Poseidon! Oldna no Poseidon! It's really great.
It's great. One more L-Gaim for us is Gauhaleshi. Just, it's perfect. It's great. Honestly, if they said the full name more in the show, because they mostly just call her Leshy, but if you said Gauhaleshi more, I think she'd be an even bigger contender for the top 10.
Yes. Well, one that is a great L-Gaim name that they do always say her full name is Ne Mohan. Is another really good. That's a great mouthfeel, Ne Mohan. And that's one where they always just do I guess sometimes they just say Ne. It's one of the where I just don't understand what the names in L-Gaim are supposed to be and what given names and surnames are. Because if they cut the name down, they just call her Ne. But most of people saying Ne Mohan. And that's just a fun name to say.
You had on your list most of the Dunbine ones that I didn't, that were on my honorable mentions. But one neither of us have said is Burn Bunnings. Burn Bunnings is a fucking great name. I know the word bunny is not technically in Burn Bunnings, but it's close enough with the burn and then the bun-ings that I think I also, when I say that name, I picture like a children's book, The Adventures of Burn Bunnings, and he's a bunny running around the fields, like I was about to say Watership Down style, but no, Watership Down is depressing as fuck. A different book, a fun, bunny book. But Burn Bunnings, who also becomes the Black Knight, and honestly, that's the worst thing about the Black Knight is they stop saying Burn Bunnings over and over again, and I want them to say Burn Bunnings because it's Burn Bunnings. That alliteration is great.
Yeah, fantastic. Another one on my list. This one was super close to being number 10. So much to the point that I have it bolded on my list because it was at one point number 10, is the butler, Garrison Tokita, which I think kind of beautiful Tachibana took his place, but lest we forget how wonderful it is that his name is Garrison.
Yes.
And then his surname is Tokita. That somehow he's Japanese. I don't know why our English butler is Japanese, but he is, and his name is Garrison.
I've got a bunch of Zabungle names, some of which you already said, but I'll go with one that is near and dear to my heart. The doctor on the ship, who is named Dr. Medic. He's a medic named Dr. Medic. That is perfect. That's great.
Yeah, another Zabungle one. This is one I kind of thought would be on your list, is Temp Sharon. I was kind of surprised
it was close.
It was not on yours.
It's on my honorable mentions. It was close, as was Garaba, the only just repeat the name I have on here, but Garaba is pretty fucking good. As is Kid Horla, lest we forget.
Kid Horla, yep.
Kid Horla, yeah.
He's on my list here as well. And then we've done most of mine. I've just got a couple of EDO names. One, which is Jolliver Ira. Honestly, if it was just Jolliver, he might have made my list. It's the surname or given name. Again, Ideon is another one where I don't understand what the names are. But the Ira part, I'm not like in love with, but I just love hearing people say Jolliver. I think is a great name. I think we should get all Olivers should have to change their name to Jolliver and put that J there. It just makes it a better name.
I would get behind that legislation. Another Ideon name I think is even better is Mac Jordan. I mean,
so this
Mac
was one.
Fucking Jordan.
This is one I had it's like I almost did two on my list, which would have been Bess Jordan and his father Mac Jordan, because
yes.
it's very much a Jimbo Rao scenario where we had a great name in Bess Jordan, like we had one in Rhonda Rao, and then Tomino like ones ups himself. It's like who could be the father of a badass like Bess Jordan? It's got to be Mac Jordan.
Yeah, it's great. My last Ideon one that you didn't say was Lata Banda, because you
yes.
put those together, it's Lata Banda. If Banda were some kind of double entendre, this would be a James Bond name, Lata Banda, but it's fantastic.
That's really great. And I think now we've done all of them. The only ones I have on here that we haven't mentioned are ones that you kind of mentioned, which is I think these were in your list of crazy Ideon Buff Clan names. I don't remember all the ones you have, but like Guba Bageba and Nukuku Kira were my two top ones of the crazy Buff Clan names.
Yes, Guba Bageba and I think Rukuku Kiru are the two best, but Galbaba Gura is also, yeah. What up?
I don't know if you just said one of the names or if you like choked on something, but yeah, that one is also really good.
It's the dangerous thing about talking about Space Runaway Ideon is you could be having a fully fluent conversation about it, have a full-on stroke, and no one would know because it would just sound like you're saying character names.
Yes, it's like, or you just reverted to an infantile state. It's like Guba Bageba.
Yes. All right, is that enough for Tomino names for now?
For now, yeah, we'll have a whole nother set of wonderful Tomino names in the Tomino-thon Part 2 to go through as well.
All right, well, let's do another joint ranking here, Sean, and let's talk about some theme songs. So we've got the songs from all of our shows so far. You've listed the openings, the endings, and then some of the insert songs. I think it's probably best if we start, why don't we list, do a ranking of the openings and the endings? I think that's the easiest place to start. Does that sound good?
Okay, sure.
And it's easy because the best opening is the L-Gaim opening and the best ending is the L-Gaim ending. Easily, to me.
Yeah, I generally agree. However, when I was listening through these, I was surprised at how good of a fight Dunbine Tobu gives as potentially the best opening. I'm willing to say that L-Gaim is still better, but I think it is, when you really listen, especially to the full version of Dunbine Tobu, where the thing with the L-Gaim theme is that it's as a 90-second piece of music as the opening to a show, it is perfect. The full version, though, doesn't add much to it. Done by Tobu is a bit more of a complicated song. It's got more going on in the instrumentation. It's got like the horns and the string section and stuff. And when you get the full sweeping, it's like a 4-minute long song. You get the whole thing. It's got a big guitar solo in the middle. Like, that goes places. That L-Gaim Time for L-Gaim lays out it plays its whole hand in 90 seconds and then has like another 90 seconds of the same thing again. Done by Tobu as like a full 4-minute song, has more stuff that it's playing with. I would still say that L-Gaim is the better opening, but Done by Tobu, I just don't want to take it for granted. I don't think it's as easy a number one as I instinctively would have thought.
I don't disagree with any of that, and I think Done by Tobu is a very easy number two. And I think you're right on all of that. I just think, if we're talking about them as openings, L-Gaim Time for L-Gaim is like, it would be in our like top 10 all time possibly. When we did that list on the Weekly Stuff podcast, like,
yes.
It's in contention for that. It's so good. I mean, the big thing is that L-Gaim, I think the fact that it goes through so much in 90 seconds is part of what makes it so dynamic as an opening. Like, it does that magic trick of fitting in a full-ass song with lots of movement in 90 seconds, building to, I think the killer feature of this song is Mio just belting the name L-Gaim at the end in one of the most legendary anime belting sessions you'll ever hear. It's phenomenal. But look, Done by Tobu is also spec-fucking-tacular, and the build of it at the beginning is so good. The kind of husky quality of Mio's voice in that one of like, it's so good. And so yeah, I think they are number one and number two, but I would agree it's close. It's definitely close. The ending thing, it's not close. Starlight Shower is the best song we listened to this season. Yeah. I think, like, ending or opening, I think that song is just tremendous. But yeah, I think I agree with you absolutely on Done by Tobu.
Yeah, for just to like this, for me, the thing with L-Gaim Time for L-Gaim, for me, the secret weapon of that song is the part in the verse where it goes halftime and everything else goes out, and it's the bass guitar. It is like the coolest fucking bass guitar fill I think I've ever heard in any song ever. Like, it is so good. And like the bass guitar and the drums and that piece in the verse when it goes halftime is just unfucking believably good. Like, I remember so distinctly the first time I listened to this song, which was years before I watched the show, because I had listened to Kaze no Reply when that was on one of the anime song cover albums that Moriguchi Hiroko did. And I was like, oh, this is an awesome song. Let me listen to the other L-Gaim song. And I was like, holy shit, it's so good. But yeah, there's something with Done by Tobu. It's like the more complex instrumentation. It's got like the, I think it's probably marimbas, but it has that kind of soft percussion to it that's really phenomenal. It's got those big string hits that play, like bum bum, like those that kind of connect the different verses together. Like they are both incredible songs. But I would put L-Gaim at number one, but Done by Tobu is again, I just ended up being a much closer number two than I expected when I went through and listened to all of these the other day to make my own mental ranking.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing about, the Time for L-Gaim in the middle is that you have her fucking duetting with a robot voice. Show me the way to you, Heavy Metal. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. So I think that's a fairly easy 1 and 2 for us. From there, I mean, we've got a lot of good options. Do you want to focus on openings for now, since we're already deep into that conversation?
Yes.
So I'll give you, my next one would be Fukatsu no Idion. I'm curious about you.
It's between, let's address the question here. Are we including Gundam songs?
Yeah, let's do the Gundam opening and ending. I think we can put them in, because I think the Gundam opening and ending, Tobei Gundam and An no Amuro, have such a clear part of the story of going from our Zambot openings to our L-Gaim openings. Like, you go through the eras of time in anime. So I think we should have them in here.
Okay. But are we okay with not then including the movie songs when we're looking at the inserts? Because that then makes this conversation really complicated, because those songs are ridiculous. That's kind of why in my heart I was like, like the Gundam songs make this a complicated thing to have. I
wasn't sure about how we were gonna rank insert songs, because frankly, for most of the shows, it's hard to say because Tomino does not use insert songs fully. Like, some of them are, like, honestly, if we're talking about the ones from this season, it's Hey You and then it's everything else. But, like, if you're ranking the Gundam movie insert songs, those are the top 5, and then it's everything else, I would argue. So, yeah.
Well, then it becomes complicated because we do have the 2 songs, well, because then we have to have the conversation about the song for the second Ideon movie, but the Ideon movie songs, which are very fucking good.
They are.
One of them ends up not being used in the movie.
That's why it's complicated. That's why I'm starting with openings and endings, because this is solid and easy to talk about. Yeah.
Yes.
But on our openings, if 1 is L-Gaim, 2 is Dunbine Tobu, my 3 would probably be Fukatsu no Ideon. What about you?
It's between that and Kaze no Reply. I think both of those are ridiculously good songs. They're very different styles. Obviously, Kaze no Reply is a full-on city pop banger, and then Fukatsu no Ideon is a more kind of crooning sort of classical style anime opening, and they're both phenomenal.
Kaze no Reply would be quite a bit lower for me, I have to say. It's fine. It's a decent city pop song. I don't think it holds a candle to some of these other ones. And I think the reason for me with Fukatsu no Ideon is it feels like the apotheosis of a different era of anime song. Like, I would put it, I love the Gundam theme, obviously, but I think it outdoes the Gundam theme by having this extra layer of, like, musical complexity to it. The way it starts slow, builds, but still has this crooning quality. I think it's a really special song, and it is so unique, because I do think there's just, in that vein, there's not much better than it. Whereas Kaze no Reply is good, but I can think of better songs in that vein than that pretty easily.
Sure. I mean, I think the thing with Kaze no Reply is that it's a better song than it is an opening theme. So it's like, if we're ranking these as, like, what is the best song to listen to on its own, I would say Kaze no Reply has more going on than Fukatsu no Ideon. If we're looking at, like, what is the better, as the 90-second, you're watching this at the beginning of an episode of the TV show, Fukatsu no Ideon is better in that context. So for me, it kind of depends on what criteria are we using to rank these.
Well, absolutely. And Fukatsu no Ideon and Tobei Gundam both have the thing where the 90-second version, you get the full song, and then the 3-minute version is just that repeats with different lyrics. And obviously, Kaze no Reply is doing something more complicated. We also have in here Shippu's a Bungle, which is a tremendous song. I will say at the bottom of this list is Daitarn 3 versus Zambot 3, right? Those are the last 2.
Yeah. Without a question. Although I'm curious, Jonathan, what you think about the dark horse contender that is the Italian Daitarn 3 song that I did put in here just in case, because it's better than Daitarn 3 or Zambot 3 for sure. So I don't know if we want to honor the Italians by saying, hey, you did a better job than the original shows did with that one.
No, because once we open that Pandora's box, we can never close it, because there's lots of other languages, I presume, too. And, it's possible Tomino's never even heard that. So it's like, it's not a part of the show's original tapestry. But if we were including it, it'd be like at least middle of this list. It's really fucking good.
It's very good, yeah. It no doubt beats the Daitarn 3 and Zambot 3 themes. I don't think I would put the Italian Daitarn 3 above any of the other ones. But if we were ranking it, it would be somewhere in that section for me.
I do think the Daitarn 3 opening is better than the Zambot 3 opening. If for no other reason than the beginning with the, like, little bit of percussion and the 1, 2, 3, Daitarn 3 is so fun. But then I do think the, like, croning quality of Namida wa nami nami, that is a fun part. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's another example of where probably Zambot 3 is a better piece of music, but Daitarn 3 is a more fun opening theme. Because Zambot 3 has that, like, the lyrics to that song are just gratingly awful, because that's the one that has that, like, they're the 3 machines that turn into one. And it's like that shit. I'm like, oh my god. And the, like, za 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 za, which is cool, but it goes on like 2 bars longer than it needs to every time, and it just drives me crazy.
But that's also the most fun part of the song. Like, the lyrics do nothing. The za 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 za, that's what's fun. I think Daitarn 3 has some actual, like, I like those opening lyrics about there are no tears, there, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I like the style of the 1, 2, 3, that's just so much fun.
Yeah. For me, the thing that makes Come Here Daitarn 3 is just the 1, 2, 3, darn art, Daitarn 3! And the guy, like, almost, like, breaks his voice when he screams out the 3 for Daitarn 3. It's so good.
Okay, so we've got the bottom of the list, we got the top of the list, we got these 4 songs in the middle. I guess, are we okay with Fukatsu no Ideon being number 3?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
All right. Then we can have the fight from there. It sounds like you would put Kaze no Reply next. I honestly, and the other thing about Kaze no Reply is it just has the bad luck of following L-Gaim Time for L-Gaim. Yeah. And so in my mind, it's the song I was disappointed with when they switched the theme songs over. But it is good on its own. I think also it's I think Mami Ayakawa, the song she did for Zeta Gundam right after this is better. So, I also just think of, when I think of that kind of song, it's just sandwiched between better songs for me, which is why it goes lower for me. I think... I
don't disagree with that, but those, okay. But we already had one of those songs is higher on this ranking, and the other song isn't in this ranking, so...
you're correct.
Go against the song.
I think there's the question of how high do we want to put Tobei Gundam, because it's so good, but also we've heard it so much that it's just part of our blood. But I also don't want to take it for granted, because it is really good at what it does. But it's a question.
Yeah. For me, one of the things with Kaze no Reply is I almost certainly have a very different relationship with that song than you, because I've listened to that song a lot well before I ever watched Heavy Metal L-Gaim. So I've liked that song for... It's in the anime Wars? Song covers, yeah. And then, then I put it as I have a city pop song playlist I've listened to for years, and I put it in there. And it's, it's not like one of the best city pop songs ever, but it's a pretty good one. And that's, it's a genre that has a lot of really incredible music. So I just have a connection to the song that exists so far outside L-Gaim that I have kind of a hard time reckoning it as just what is it as an opening theme versus what is it as a piece of music.
Well, and see, that's my problem with it, is that these three that we have in the middle of Kaze no Reply, Shippu Zabungle, and Tobei Gundam, Shippu Zabungle and Tobei Gundam are so tied to those shows, I can't imagine them without it. Tobei Gundam is, the slow build to it, the kind of anthemic lyrics, it's so perfect for Gundam. And then Shippu Zabungle is such a cool song. I love the guitar. I love the kind of Ennio Morricone style instrumentation they do in parts to give it this kind of spaghetti western feel, particularly some of the percussion. It's so tied to the texture of that show, whereas I don't know if Kaze no Reply is so embedded in the texture of L-Gaim that I put it on that same level as an opening. As a song, it is a different conversation.
Yeah, part of what we're seeing there is also just the shift in what is an anime opening has started to change, because this is the first time where we changed the anime opening, and Kaze no Reply almost certainly was a song written to be an L-Gaim song, broadly speaking. It's got the Say Mark II and all that kind of stuff in there. But it is much more of an Ayukawa Mami single than it is an anime opening. And that's kind of obviously where the whole genre eventually moved to over time, is songs that are generally written to be the opening theme of a thing, but are less of we're saying the name of the show and the song is titled after the show and all that kind of thing. It's more like we kind of made a single and it was inspired by what you told us about the show, is what anime songs more are nowadays. And Kaze no Reply is an early example of us moving to that model. So I think that's part of where it's just such a different beast compared to Shippu Zabungle. That is a song that does not exist in any context that isn't Zabungle. And Tobei Gundam is a song that doesn't exist in any context that isn't Mobile Suit Gundam. You can obviously listen to them as pieces of music on their own, and they're really good as pieces of music on their own, but their identity is engraved in the show, because that's its entire raison d'etre is just this show. It's not a song written to sell a CD or a record, or a record or a cassette tape. It's not built for that. It's just built to be the opening theme of a TV show. So they're very different beasts in terms of the kind of opening we're looking at here.
But I really need to sing the themes of that Zabungle theme. It's so good. The build at the end where you have the singer just belting Hayate no yo ni Zabunguru, Zabunguru. That is tied in my head. The way you have the big horns coming in, it hypes me the fuck up. It would be my number 4 if we're going with what our next one would be. That's where I would go next.
Yeah, it is a it's a very hype opening. I definitely agree. I'm fine with putting that as number 4. I do think that Kaze no Reply is a more interesting listen as a full song for sure. But if we're ranking more, how is it as an anime opening? Definitely Shippu Zabungle, I think, is also better in that specific context. I would say that Tobei Gundam is better in that specific context if we're looking at it as a 90-second anime opening and not as a full piece of music on its own.
Yeah, Kaze no Reply would be my number 6 if that's how we're ranking it.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
As long as we're like doing it with the like that is the way we're ranking it. It's not as a musical composition on its own, but how is it used as a 90-second opening theme accompanied with animation? If that's what we're privileging, then that absolutely is how I'd rank it.
Well, because I think we already decided that with 1 versus 2, because I think that's what ultimately puts the L-Gaim song above the Dunbine song. Because I think if you're doing the full versions, it's closer and it's harder for all the reasons you said.
Yeah.
But I think as openings, that's how it goes.
I'm fine with that.
All right. Then we've got our endings. Again, I just think, I don't know if we even need to rank. It's so, Starlight Shower is so head and shoulders.
Oh.
It's one of the best anime endings of all time. Just
it's great.
Utterly unbelievable. And it's the build of it. It is Mio's belting vocals. There's something haunting about it. I think, it's one of those with a very simple loop animation, but God, what a haunting, the body floating through space with that it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just no question. It's also, I don't know if this counts for the, like, how you're ranking it, but it is also the best song amongst these that is reused as instrumental pieces in the main soundtrack is just also a thing that Starlight Shower is so good. That core melody is so powerful that when it's recontextualized in different instrumental pieces, like that really holds up in that context phenomenally as well. But yeah, it's also the best song that showcases Mio's vocal style. I think she's like, that's the best use of her of all of the many Mio songs we have here. I think it's very easy number 1 on our endings list.
Yeah, and I will also just say it is, of every song we're going to be talking about on this list of at least the ones that are not from Gundam, it's my favorite just song of these. I just think it's an amazing song. Yeah. But then the question is what our number 2 would be. I would personally lean towards Cosmos ni Kimito from Space Runaway Ideon. Love that song, but I'm curious where you would go.
That's a great one. I would maybe go Bison Well as number 2. Especially if we're thinking of it as like an ending, with like the animation and all of that kind of stuff with it. I think that is just such an incredible ending, and the way it sets the mood and weird tone of Dunbine and the kind of like fantasy stuff, particularly in the early sections of that show, and just the gorgeous animation of the fairy running and then ending with her curling herself into this kind of flower blossom. I would personally put that one at number 2.
But would you be good with Cosmos at number 3 then?
Yes.
Okay, then that's how I'm going to do it, because I won a little on the openings list, but also I basically agree with you. Like I personally like the Ideon song more as a song, but I think, one, you are absolutely right. That loop animation of the fairy at the end of Dunbine is one of the great loop animation endings of all time. And I got to know it pretty well because I made it the centerpiece of our ending song. If you watch these episodes of Japanimation Station, it's in there. And I even had to go in and kind of edit it to make the loop run a little longer for us. So I got to know it very good frame by frame. And it's fairly easy to identify the points where they start and end the loop, but it's actually kind of hard to cut together because they do it so fluidly. It's a real masterpiece of that kind of anime ending. And so I think, all things being equal, that probably does give it the edge. But also, Mio belting "By Stonewell" is just something special.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. On the other end of the list, again, I think the next 2 are definitely Zabungle and Gundam. The bottom 2 are, again, I think Zambot and Daitarn.
Yes.
It's just which one's the worst. I think the worst is Zambot again, because I just think that song is boring and I do not remember it. And I mostly skipped it.
Yeah. Like Topo de Tango is not, which is the Daitarn 3 ending, is not like a particularly good song, but it's a very memorable song.
It's fun.
Da 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 da. Like, Stars of the Universe Forever, which is the Zambot 3 one. I needed to, like, all these other ones, I could remember what the song was without having to look it up and listen to it again. Stars of the Universe Forever, the Zambot 3 one, I was like, I can't remember at all what it was. It's fine, but it's just a very generic 1970s anime ending theme is what it feels like to me.
Yeah. Also, Topo de Tango does have a really fun animation with it.
Yes, that's
with
true.
him doing the puppetry, and I think it's like synced to the music pretty well. So yeah, not enough to get it above number 6, but to get it above number 7. I would put An Niamoro above the Zabungle one. The Zabungle ending is fine, but it's not.
Yeah. I mean, I do really like the Zabungle ending a lot. It's a very unique, it's just a very different kind of song as an ending, but just Forever Amuro or An Niamoro is just so iconic and such a great song, you know. And especially, like, I know we're talking more about just as the 90-second version or whatever, but the full version of An Niamoro is fucking awesome. Like,
it would go up a couple spots because of that middle part. It's do-ah.
Yeah.
That part that is not in the 90-second is so good.
Yeah, like if you're taking the full versions into account, that one might be number 2. If we're just looking at the 90-second version, I think number 4 is a good spot for it.
Yeah. All right, I'm happy with these. Then the question is, what do we do with the insert songs? Which is tough because you have all these notes on them, Sean. Like, this one was barely used. This one was unused, but it's pretty good. And you could have put more on here, like this one we barely hear, because it's a weird thing. Tomino is not, I think, like constitutionally an insert song person outside of some things like the Gundam movies. But like otherwise, they're not a prominent feature of his body of work.
Yeah, I think when I put these, I didn't know that we were doing opening and endings as separate lists. I thought we were just going to put them all into one big list, which is where
that'd be hard. That would take a long time.
Yes, because this is hard to do the like how is it used in context thing, because most of them, as you say, are either not really used in context or they're used incredibly poorly. The main example to that is or the main exception to that is Hey You. From Comet Mecha Zabungle, and then obviously if we're including the Gundam movies, which I did again in my original vision, I thought we were doing this as all one big list. I'm like, fuck that. How are we gonna put the Gundam movie songs? It's like I don't want to compare those to Starlight Shower. Like I don't want to have that conversation, which is better. That's too hard to do. If we're just looking at these as insert songs on their own and how they're used specifically in the show, Hey You is the only one that's used, I think, particularly well. And then Sailing Fly from A Contact, that is just fully played, and that's a great song. I think as a piece of music, I think that is actually a better song for Ideon than its original opening and ending themes, because it's when you start getting more of the tone of Ideon. The best Ideon song is the one that wasn't used in the movie, which is Umi ni Hini, which is the song for Be Invoked. It's only used in the instrumental track. But if we were just ranking straight up what are like the best pieces of music on this list, that one would be really high at the top for me.
It's the best of the insert songs, absolutely. I would put it that and then Hey You just as songs, and then maybe the insert song from the L-Gaim OVA, Cool, the Hiro June one.
Yeah.
But like it's not in the movie. So you can't even have the conversation of how it's used in the movie because it wasn't used in the movie, which I think was the right call, but it is also kind of heartbreaking because it is such a good song.
Yes. We do have the 2 absolutely atrociously terrible insert songs from Dunbind, Mizuno no Kageyaki and Ao Speech Balloon, which are horrible and terrible. They're bad songs on their own, and they're also used in in a destructive way for Dunbind because the scenes in which they feature, it like harms the scene that they're in the scene at all. And so, you know, if we were making a ranking, they would be at the bottom. And I don't have an opinion about which one is worse than the other.
I say we create a little list. I'm going to call it the Hey You Presents Obscure Songs list, Sean.
Okay.
Where we put Umi ni Hini as number 1.
Yes.
Despite it not being in anything we watched. But it was made for something we watched. And then I think Hey You gets the number 2 spot there.
And then, honestly, in that spirit, if we're saying, like, fuck, ignore how it's used in the show...
Italian Daitarn 3.
Italian Daitarn 3, that's an opening. That's not an insert song.
I said obscure songs list. I didn't say. Okay. I made this for a reason because I wanted to put Italian Daitarn 3 on here.
Well, I would put, even above Italian Daitarn 3, I would put Kizutsuita Jealousy from L-Gaim, a song that is a great song. It's an absolute banger. It is one of the most hilarious uses of an insert song, though, because they only do the part of the verse before you get to the hook of the song, and it's like this ridiculous experience of where you're like, when are they going to, like, it stops right when it's about to play the hook, and they play like 20 seconds of this fucking song. Like, why would you stop there? You're about to get to the part where the song like really kicks in, and it's a very frustrating. But it's if you want to just put another song on a city pop playlist, Kizutsuita Jealousy is a pretty good one of those. It's Ayakawa Mami. It's very good. It's a fun song.
I would agree. So what I did is then I put Daitarn 3 Italian, and then I put Cool by Hiroe Jun, and I think that's a good little top 5 of obscure songs that may or may not be in the shows we watched.
Yes, I'm fine with that.
All right. Then let's go through our list, Sean, now that we've made them all. Our top openings, I'll do these, you can read the endings, and then we'll do the next one. Okay. So our top 8 openings, we ranked them as number 8, Go, Zambot 3. Number 7, Come Here, Daitarn 3. Number 6, Kaze no Reply from L-Gaim. Number 5, Tobei Gundam. Number 4, Shippu Zabungle. Number 3, Fukatsu no Ideon. Number 2, Dunbine Tobu. And number 1, L-Gaim, Time for L-Gaim.
All right, and our endings theme list is number 7, Stars of the Universe Forever from Zambot 3. Number 6 is Toppo de Tango from Daitarn 3. Number 5 is Kawaita Daichi from Zabungle. Number 4 is Aen ni Amuro, or Forever Amuro from Gundam. 3 is Cosmos ni Kimito from Space Runner Ideon. Number 2 is Mierudaro Bystone Well from Dunbine. And then number 1, with a bullet, and the best song, maybe of all of these, which is Starlight Shower from, of course, Heavy Metal L-Gaim.
And our weird obscure songs list was Umi ni Himi from, well, not from anything, but from the soundtrack for Ideon Be Invoked.
Yes.
Number 2,
as featured on the soundtrack from
yes.
Ideon 2, basically.
Yes. Number 2, Hey You by Mio from Zabungle, the only true insert song here. Number 3, Kizutsuita Jealousy, theoretically from L-Gaim, but really from the soundtrack and single. Number 4, the Italian Daitarn 3 opening, because fuck yeah. And number 5, Cool by Hiroe Jun, which just kicks ass.
It's just a cool song. It's appropriately titled.
All right. So we did songs. Finally, we have our mechs. We have taken, this is another one where we've just put Gundam off to the side, because we have ranked Gundam mechs.
Yes.
They're their own can of worms. They're great, but we can do that a separate time. We have done that a separate time. But then we didn't really have any rules for this, Sean. What I wound up making was a top 5 L-Gaim mechs and a top 5 everything else, which I can just combine into a top 10 because that would just be the bottom 5 and the top 5. What did you do?
Basically, I have technically 18 things on this list, but what I have done is I have taken I've ranked everything from at least one thing from each show. I have not included every mech from every show. Some of the early ones only have one thing on there, but I put them in the relative order. And it just happened when I tried to start ranking all these things together, it just ended up that all the show's mechs are all in the same spot. So it's almost like a tiered list where each show it occupies its own tier, and I've ranked mechs within that tier. But it's just, I will say the show with the best mechs is Heavy Metal L-Gaim, and I've just kind of found, ultimately, that all the Heavy Metal L-Gaims Heavy Metals are better than any of the mechs in any of the other shows. All the Dunbine ones are better than all the other ones, and then it's Zabungle, and then it's Ideon, and then I won't say the other two because that gives away the rankings, because there's only one from the other two.
That is basically how mine works too, because if I'm saying that I made a top 5, my top 5 are L-Gaim ones, then I have a couple from Dunbine, then I have a couple from Zabungle, and I didn't rank anything from anything else.
Yes.
If I'm being honest.
I really, for me, it was L-Gaim, and then it was Dunbine, and I was like, well, I might as well put some Zabungle stuff on there. And I was like, well, then I might as well throw something on it from the other shows, and get a tiered ranking of where those would fall.
All right, so how about we start by you telling me the ones, before we get to Zabungle, how did you position those? Because I didn't even bother with the other 3 shows.
So it was a real hard fight for the last one of what is at the bottom of this list between Daitarn 3 and Zambot 3. And I ultimately decided that Zambot 3 is the worst of all of them. It's the most boring. It's fine. I don't hate the design or anything. It's whatever. Daitarn 3 is a goofier design, but it's a way more memorable design, and so It's got that goofy face. And so my number 18 of my 18 listed things is Zambot 3 is at the bottom, and then just above that is Daitarn 3, and then just above that is the noble and very ugly Space Runaway Ideon that I wanted to throw him on there. It's, it is a design that is terrible and garish and awful, but it is so charming in the context of the show that you can't help but love it. But I can't justify putting it anywhere above that.
Well, here's the thing. I thought about putting the Ideon as a number 10 on my list because the way it is used in the show is brilliant. The way they kind of weaponize the bluntness and the ugliness and the boxiness of the design to turn it into this sort of eldritch horror thing is a brilliant turn. But that's not usually how we rank these. We're ranking these on the designs. And as a design on its own, it fucking sucks. So, no, it is not in my top 10.
Do you agree with me, though, that it's better than the Daitarn and Zambot design?
Yes, I think. But it's also, Ideon is such a massively better show than those two that it's kind of hard in my head to keep all that together. But yeah, I think so. I think it cuts a better figure, probably. You know, the bigness of it is cool. Yeah.
It's just more unique. You know, there's some of like those, like, you know, Zambot and Daitarn are such like sort of second-rate super robot designs. And, you know, they look like someone trying to make a Mazinger or a Getter Robo kind of thing. Whereas Ideon is just someone who lost their fucking... Well, it's not someone who lost their minds. It's someone who is told, you gotta make 3 cars that transform into a giant-ass mech, and they're like, well, fuck that. Like, it's like, with 1979, 1980 level technology, it's going to be this horrible rectangular mess, and that's what it ended up being. But it's so unique compared to all those other kinds of designs around that time. It's like, it's not a regular super robot at all. Certainly it's not a real robot style design a la Gundam or anything after it. It's just such a weird, unique thing that it has a charm all on its own that for me puts it above the kind of knockoff super robots of Daitarn and Zambot.
I think that is fair.
All right. And then from there I have 2 things from Zebungle, and then it gets into my real list, which is some Dunbine and then L-Gaim at the top.
All right, well, why don't you tell me what you've got up through... Well, okay, tell me the Zebungle ones, and then I'll start my list.
Okay, so my number 15 is the Combat Mecha Zebungle, and then my number 14 it's the Walker Gallia. I don't have, honestly, a particularly strong opinion about which one is better, but when I was looking back at the designs... I like the Walker Gallia captures a little bit more of what Zebungle's going for with having it be less of a hero design and a little bit more downplayed. The Zebungle is a very cool design, but it's a bit too vivid with like how bright the blue is and stuff like that, which I think kind of takes away a little bit from the diesel punk thing that Zebungle is kind of trying to stumble into like 10 years before that was a thing. And the Walker Gallia gets a little bit closer. But I found it was interesting looking back at the Walker designs that there really aren't any particularly good ones. Like, I like what they were trying to go for with the designs, but it just was clear that they were not ready to design the machines for the setting of Zebungle when that show came out. Because all the other mechs that aren't the 2 hero mechs, I think, are really bland in a way that just doesn't quite work for me.
Yeah, so what I did is my number 10 is, I don't know if this is cheating or not, but I put the Iron Gear on there. Because the Iron Gear is super cool.
Sure.
It turns into a giant mech. If the Ideon is a mech, the Iron Gear gets to be a mech.
You know,
it's the same size.
You're then getting to our, like, is the Macross a mech or not? Because the Macross does the same thing.
Okay,
so you're stumbling into a bigger argument here.
You put the Ideon on your list. I get to do this. I think it makes sense, and I think that the concept. I think that is the coolest mech concept in Zebungle is the big land ships that turn into giant walking mechs. I actually do think the design of the Iron Gear is pretty good. I like the red. I like the yellow vents. I think it's nice. And then I put the Zebungle itself at number 9. I did not put the Gallia on here. The Gallia is fine, but I love the Zebungle. The Zebungle is just a classic Okawara design. Maybe this holds it back in some sense in the way you were saying, and I see what you mean. It could just be a Gundam design. It could be in Mobile Suit Gundam. I don't know if it fully embraces the full diesel punk ideas of Zebungle, but I really like the stark, it's blue, and it's white, and it's got little bits of red highlights. But I think that, like, it kind of limits itself in what it's doing, and I think it cuts a very striking figure because of that. I really like the blue and the white design. I think it's very clean. I like the Zebungle a lot.
Yeah, I think the Zebungle works fine for me, but yeah, I do think it's just like, it doesn't, partially because it doesn't fully kind of match the tone of the show. It doesn't feel like it ends up rising above the show. Like, it ends up, I don't want to call it generic because I think that's too unfair to it, but it ends up feeling generic because it doesn't embrace the setting of the show in the way that like the mobile suits from Gundam do, which I think hurts the design. The Walker Gallia does a little bit more of trying to, embrace this idea that these things are all piloted with a steering wheel, like it gets a little bit close to that idea. If I were including the Iron Gear, I agree with you. The Iron Gear, I think the Iron Gear is the best design. I didn't think to include that. I think it's fine to include it. It just didn't occur to me.
All right. Well, that's Zabungle then. And then I have 8, 7, and 6 on my list are Dunbine ones. So what are your Dunbine ones, Sean?
I've got, this is 13, 12, 11, and 10. So only one of these gets into what would be a top 10. My number 13 is the Drumlo, which is the most sort of basic kind of grunt. It's the Zaku of Orbadler Dunbine, and it's the little ladybug looking one, and it's the most kind of round and adorable. And I didn't think about it at first, but then when I was looking at a list of all the designs and looking at it again, I'm like, yeah, that's a great little bug little guy. It kind of captures that energy really well. My number 12 is the Vieras, which that one is the one which Todd comes back with. That's black and has the two battle axe things. That one is a very, I think, sleek, super cool design that is moving out of the sort of full insectoid aesthetic they had early on. It keeps some of those elements still, but it's more of that kind of second half of the show when they're getting a little bit more kind of War Machine looking. Just above the Vieras, I have the Leprechaun, which I think is an absolutely fucking sick design. I think the Leprechaun looks awesome. It's got a little bit more insectoid qualities than the Vieras does. It's got that bright red color. This is the one that Gerald, for instance, is piloting for a lot of the second half of the show, including Into Her Death. And it's the one that goes hyper for the first time. And it's just a very sick design. But then at my number 1 for the Dunbine, or number 10 of my overall list, is the Dunbine itself. Looking back over it, I ultimately felt I think the Dunbine is the best Aura Battler of those. I think it's just that design has a very classic, it cuts a very classic look. It's got a really great color scheme with that kind of very soft purple with some green on there. And it has the very insectoid kind of appearance of the early Aura machines. And it's just a machine that I think when it pops up in later stuff, when Dunbine's used again, or they put out new figures and stuff like that, I just think that design really still stands up as something very unique and very striking even today. So that is where I'd put it as, for me, my favorite of all of the Aura machines in Aura Battler Dunbine.
So I have 3 of the same ones you did. I have them in a slightly different order. My number 8 was the Leprechaun, which, agree with everything you said. The shades of red on it are absolutely perfect. I think the way they clash with the sort of translucent white, moth wings they have on the back is really cool. I love the big kind of, what would you call them? The kind of fin systems that come off the back that are the hover units. I think that looks really neat. It's got a great faceplate with the pincers on it, which is really cool. And it looks good, wielding a sword. So the Leprechaun is awesome. Yeah. It's involved in some very, very memorable stuff. My number 7 was the Dunbine itself, for all the reasons you just said. The Dunbine is amazing. I think it is iconic for good reason. I think there's also a good reason why the final episode of the series spends way more time showing you the final moments of the Dunbine. Yeah. And the Bilbine just kind of exits, whatever, no one cares. But the Dunbine has to get a big hero moment at the end because it is better. The Bilbine is fine, but that is one where I think the show gets a little bit of a downgrade going to its second hero suit, whereas the Dunbine is just, oh my god, it's so good. I think the purple with the yellowish wings is a really good design. I really love it. But my number 6, which was the top of my Dunbine list, was the Vieras. That was an easy one for me. I think the way that melds the more industrial design with the bug-like design is really cool, because it's not gone. It does still have the wings. It does still have the face looks very bug-like, and just some of the overall proportions. But the fact that it is this big black suit with these red highlights, some dark navy blue, and then the big axes. I just love it. I also think in animation, that's one of the ones that reads best in Aura Battler Dunbine. It just comes across really powerfully. And I remember just sitting up and taking note of that suit when we get to it and being like, oh my god, I love this thing.
Yeah, the Vieras is very cool. It also has a very prominent horn at its crotch, which is, I think, a great feature that more the mechs should have. Is just a big dick on there. It's just I think It just brings the design together.
Absolutely. All right, so now we're into L-Gaim, right?
Yes, now we're in L-Gaim. I have 9 L-Gaim suits here that I, threw together. I mean, basically what I did when I ranked these is I just like started typing out like what are all the things that I thought were cool, and I ended up with all the L-Gaim and then all the Dunbine ones. I'm like, well, I might as well just throw some other on there.
Yeah.
And just didn't cut anything from a list.
Tell me your 9 through 6, and then we'll trade off for the top 5.
Okay. One thing I'll say is that I didn't, and I'm not going to bother to add it at this point. I made this list before I did the OVA for L-Gaim, so the Pagoda is not on here, and I don't want to bother trying to figure out where I would put it on a list I've already made. So just keep that in mind, is that the Pagoda, I just didn't consider it because I hadn't watched that before I had made this list.
Same for me. I thought about inserting it, and it is really good, but I just didn't. I'd already made the list, so I was lazy.
Yeah. All right. So you said I want to go up to 6?
Yeah.
Okay. So my number 9 is the Calvary Temple, which is the one that is modeled to look like Olive, basically. That it's got like the big crazy hair like she has. It's the big gold one with orange highlights. A very good design. And again, like this is not every L-Gaim heavy metal, so these are all the ones that I like particularly liked. So it's still a great design, I think. Just above that, I have the Ashura Temple, which is the red one that Gable starts using kind of earlier on in the show. That one is particularly notable to me that it has the 2 kind of buckler-sized shields that are on those like support arms that then have the big spike that shoots lasers. That is like a really sick feature that is used really well in the action scenes. And it's just got a really great Sharzaku style color scheme with a kind of almost pink, light red with darker red highlights. Just a great color scheme for mech, generally speaking. My number 7 is the Garoon, which is one of the later mobile suits that's most prominent with Lily Hasha. Lily Hasha uses it. And that one has like the big fucking lance. And it's got the giant fuck off horns, dark blue with light blue highlights, kind of a goof color scheme from Gundam. This is one of the ones where you're getting a little bit deeper in. So it's like, I like it. It just doesn't have like a face at all. It's, it's so mechanical in its design, and it's big and it's brutish. It has like just like such a presence. And then my number 6 is the Novel Dizard, which is the upgrade version of the Dizard that Leshy gets near the end of the show. One that I wish was more prominent in the show. It's honestly not used all that much, but it's a sick design that I used it a lot in Super Robot Wars Y. And it's, has these big kind of like wings almost on its shoulder that come down that end in barrels that shoot lasers. And so it's very mobile and uses those as these kind of like extra laser cannons on its shoulders. But it gives it this very sleek, very elegant kind of form with almost this kind of like wing-like structure on the edges. And I think that really helps the Novel Dizard stand out amongst some of the other heavy metals. And that's my number 6.
Excellent. I love all of those. There's only one of them that is on my list, so not a lot of repetition here, which is nice. So I'll go ahead and kick things off in the top 5 with my number 5. And just to say, I combined as like ties a couple of the ones where there's alternate versions of it, as one item, because I thought that was fair. And this is what I did for my number 5. My number 5 is the Atoll, which is an amazing suit to begin with. It's simple, but it's really nice. The like mix of it's this dark navy blue. It's got kind of the mono eye head, but the head is like big and elongated, and then it's got all the black shoulder pads and everything. I think it's one of the early ones that Gavle pilots.
No, the Atoll's near the end of the show. It's the last one that Gavle gets.
Okay, so yeah, it's you're right. I'm mixing it up. But yes, that is where the Atoll comes in. But then I am also mixing it with the Atoll 5 McTomin build that our boy McTomin gets that has like a shoulder from the Auge, but it has the big like radial shields coming off of the top, which was from the Ashura Temple, and it has a lance, but the main body of it is just the Atoll, but with those extra pieces. And I think that one would be my real like number 5 if I had to pick, but the base Atoll I really like too, and I think it reads in animation really, really beautifully.
Yes, it's a great one. It might be feature very soon on my list, but my number 5 is the Bashu, which is the one that Gablet gets after the Ashura Temple. It's big, it's purple with cool maroon highlights. This is one of the ones that when it pops up on the like next Heavy Metal Bashu, and you're like, what the fuck is this thing? Its head is so crazy with like the two big kind of wing ears almost kind of things on it. But it definitely is one of the shows, or it's one of the heavy metals that signals you're in the kind of second phase of the show, that it's just got a very different kind of look to it. And I think the color scheme is super striking. It's got this is the first one that you see using the Mega Buster launch or whatever, the giant rifles, which is incredibly cool. And yeah, it's a heavy metal that's got a lot of presence and stands out a lot.
Might talk about that more in a second, but my number 4 is the eponymous mobile suit, the L-Gaim itself, and I'll put the L-Gaim Mark II in here as well as kind of an honorable mention with it. And I do love the L-Gaim Mark II. I like how it goes to the darker gray, the orange highlights it gets, obviously just the ridiculous amounts of extra armature it has on it. But I do think there is something about the original L-Gaim and the sleek simplicity of that thing. It is kind of... it's the kind of mobile suit that we know Tomino always kind of wanted at the heart of his stuff, which is all white or all gray or something like that. And I think Nagano managed to pull that off, because that's how like Tomino describes the Gundam in the Gundam novelizations, is it did not have color in that version. It would have been like all gray and more industrial. And what I think is so magical about the L-Gaim is that Nagano pulls that very monotonal design off without having it feeling boring. It feels really exciting, actually. The way there's this stark white mobile suit or heavy metal in the middle of things. The way it has like those like leg panels that open up to show the endoskeleton underneath all of that stuff, which is more of a beige brown. I think it is just incredibly cool. And again, the way of doing what I think is more Tomino's kind of like what he would like ideally of this, like it's I guess you could say quote unquote more realistic, because it doesn't have the like candy coloring on it, but it doesn't feel any less striking or exciting or visually dynamic. And I think that's a real magic trick that Nagano pulled off with this thing.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a great one. It will feature on my list as well.
All right.
My number 4 is one you talked about a little bit earlier, is the ATOL. It's fucking sick. When it comes in near the end of the show, and it's got this like crazy big elongated head with the mono eye look. It's another where I think it just has a very striking color scheme with the dark blue, like the heavy kind of black armor around it. It's got this crazy kind of like whip kind of weapon with it that is very cool. And yeah, it's just got that sort of... It's got a good blend of, it feels like it's a more massive, like bigger kind of threat, while also keeping a little bit of the simplicity with the heavy metal designs, where it feels like kind of like some of those latter era Xeon mobile suits, where it has that additional feeling of power while still feeling like it's a mass produced thing. It's not like an Ace heavy metal. It's not like one of the best ones out there. It doesn't have that kind of a special level of like extra polish. And I think it like has a really nice balance between those two kinds of aesthetics that works great for me.
Absolutely. My number 3 is one you talked about recently, which was the Bashu, or as it's just in if you Romanize it, it says Bat Shoe, which makes it sound like it's Batman's mobile suit, which would be pretty cool. But it is the Bashu. I love it for all the reasons you said, Sean. But one thing I also want to highlight here is that this is something I think Nagano Mamoru is better at than literally anyone else who has ever designed mechs, is making the metal look shiny. And this is a small detail, but it's something that really sets apart his mechs from anyone else's. And I think that you see this with his gold mobile suits. It's something that Hyakushiki really stands out for in Zeta Gundam, for instance, is just the way they play the illusion of it being shiny, glossy metal, where you have some variance in the color of the armor, where they'll put on the like light blue parts over the dark purple, so it looks like this thing. It effectively sells the illusion that this is like glossy metal with a sheen on it. And on the Bashu, you get that not just on the purple, but on the red of the little shoulder shields it has. And there's something about it as this like glossy metal that I think is so fucking cool. And then you combine that with the way the Bashu is tall and thin and very industrial, and when you can see all the wires under it and the gray parts, I just think the color design of this thing is so striking. And yes, it comes in with the giant fuck-off blaster gun that is literally taller than it is. Honestly, the Bashu would be higher if the show used it more. I think it is underused in the show because it is such a phenomenal design.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely awesome. All right.
Yeah.
So my number 3 is one you talked about quite a bit. It is the Heavy Metal L-Gaim. I will say that I have split out the L-Gaim and the L-Gaim Mark II, so that is a spoiler of which one it's a hard fight between the two, but I'm considering them separately. L-Gaim, I mean, I echo everything you say. It is such an awesome design in its sleekness, the simplicity of the white design. It's one that, like, animators just like get so much mileage out of the design of this thing. The way it has the like leg plates that open up that expose the kind of machinery underneath that also allows it to like have like thrusters there, allows it to fly around. Like it communicates so much of the Nagano style of design, of the sense of the mechanics underneath this fairly simple chassis that makes it feel like a true machine and not like a superhero, which is obviously the super robot aesthetic that continued to stick around even when Tomino was trying to move away from it in things like Gundam and Zabungle. And here, you know, I think the L-Gaim manages to strike that balance of feeling like a hero machine with like the white, and the simplicity almost makes it stand out amongst all the others, while being it is another machine. It is not a superhero. It's not white and gold and with, you know, blue and red and all the colors, and it's not doing all that kind of shit. It is so mechanical and simplistic, and that is its absolute charm, and I love it. And I love, like, again, it's so much of it is like the way it's animated and how it moves and how it fights is so interesting and elegant and feels like it comes so much from the design that you can just feel so much of like Nagano striking this powerful note right off the bat about this is a different world of what these things can be like in anime.
Absolutely. All right, into the top 2. My number 2 is kind of a tie between a Mobile Suit or Heavy Metal and then its evolved form, and that is one you already talked about, the Garoon, which I love for all the reasons you said. I think the mix of light blue and dark blue with those giant horns, it kind of feels like Nagano's take on the Gyan from Mobile Suit Gundam, like if he did something like that, where it has this, it's the one that looks most like kind of a knight in armor, and I really love that. But then it also gets, and Nemohan pilots this, the Saloons, which is a really cool design that has, basically it's the Garoon with big red armor plating all over it. It has a fucking mace on a chain, ball and chain mace, and a big spear, and then the horns are a little more curved on the top, and that one I think is even better. But I think you put those two together, the Garoon in particular is one that sticks around for most of the show. It keeps coming back and different people pilot it, and I was always so happy to see it because I absolutely love that thing.
Yeah, it's a great design.
Yeah.
All right. My number 2 is the L-Gaim Mark II. Say Mark II, because there it is, my number 2. I had a very hard time ranking between the two versions of the L-Gaim. And I do think that partially it might be my Super Robot Wars stuff is helping it more, because I just used the L-Gaim Mark II so much in that game because it's ridiculously powerful. And there's, like, I think I have a love for the L-Gaim Mark II in a very similar way I have a love for the Double Zeta, which is just like, here is a massive, big, fuck you mech that is just going to ruin your day. But I think it manages to do that while also, you know, it becomes a little bit more of a hero suit than the L-Gaim, but it doesn't go over the edge to being something like candy colored and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's got that very nice sort of like slate gray matte for most of it, but with the orange highlights of different pieces, which I think the orange is a great color to use because it makes it feel, I think it almost enhances the feel of it being a heavy piece of machinery that's like, caution, use this thing and you're gonna fuck yourself up. And it's got the giant shoulder plates that are, it's like the big shields that it uses. And of course, the kind of very iconic head design that has a little bit of like an echo of a medieval helmet with the like part like that wooden and medieval helmet be the kind of mouthpiece that has these like vertical slits, but it's up where its kind of forehead would be if it was a human head, and then the larger extended top up front that has the little window that they had used the Fatima setting with the weird women controlling the mechas, it would have been there, but you get those great shots in the second opening that feature its head that's very iconic and very striking and a little bit more defined than the original L-Gaims. But then, of course, you can't talk about the L-Gaim Mark II without talking about the Mega Buster launcher and this giant rifle that has to plug in like 6 wires into its, belt, basically, in order to fire this thing. And it feels like a machine built to destroy like warships in a single shot. And the power of the design is so cool. And I do have to say that some of my love for it almost certainly comes from me using it for that exact purpose and sitting it on one end of a map in Super Robot Wars, and there's a big ass enemy on the other side of the map. And I'm like, well, good thing I've got the world's biggest sniper, like laser sniper rifle ever, and just blasting this thing. And it just the power communicated in the design is so cool, and I think ultimately it just edges out very slightly the sleekness of the original L-Gaim design, but they're very close to me in my rankings.
Absolutely, and I think you did a great job explaining why that suit is so cool, because yes, I probably prefer a little bit the first L-Gaim, but this is not a situation like the Dunbine where I feel like we get a little bit of a downgrade. I think it's just a little bit of personal preference, but they are both so cool. And I think if I had spent a lot of time playing a video game where I got to blow shit up with the L-Gaim Mark II, I would probably be where you are, Sean, because I totally get what you're saying.
It's legitimately like ridiculously overpowered in that game. And it's just like, it feels appropriately so, because it's like, fuck you, and here's a giant laser. And it makes you feel very powerful. And it just like communicates in the show that Daba just goes from being like a regular threat to someone that can end this thing, because look at this fucking thing he's driving.
Absolutely. Well, my number one, I'm guessing it's your number one, because
Probably.
It is the prototypical Nagano Mamoru suit. It is the kind of design that I think defines his entire career, particularly once you get to 5-star stories. But it is the Aoj and the original Aoj as kind of a offshoot of that. But it is our big yellow mobile suit, like the Hyakushiki, like the main suit in 5-star stories. It is big, it is bold, it's got those giant shoulder pads that are so cool. It's yellow. The Aoj itself has a little more burnished quality to it, a little less glossy, to give it that sense of age. It's got that like night quality to it with the sort of eyepiece mask almost thing it's got on its head. And then, of course, you go to the original Aoj, where one of the shoulder pieces becomes a giant gun. The other one is even bigger and has the big like Knights Templar shield on it. And man, when these things show up, it's just, you see the arc of Nagano Mamoru's career, that he's going to be drawing cool yellow gold mobile suits for the rest of his fucking life, because he is the best at this kind of thing.
Yeah. And obviously the Aoj is also my number one. Again, this is another one that I saw in Super Robot Wars first and thought, man, this thing is so cool. And then it's used so much in the show. It gets like so much screen time because it's Nemohan's main suit. And it just is so powerful. And it's one of those where it's like in a world with like, where you have your Ashra temples in Bashus and stuff like that. I love how much the Aoj communicates that it is like one of the top class ones, and it has the sleekness. It's got those really great super sleek lines that are very Nagano designed. It's got the kind of like almost tall, not fully lanky feel, because it has those big shoulder pads, but if you remove the shoulder pads, it has almost like a slightly thin profile, which I think works really well for it. And the color scheme of the internal armor mostly being this kind of like darker, almost kind of brown color, and the external armor being that bright shining gold is gorgeous and communicates the idea of this thing being kind of a knight in armor, and really selling that idea that there's a continuity going back to ancient history of wearing armor, and particularly plate armor, and the kind of body in armor that continues, that this is just a future sci-fi version of that. And I think it gets that feeling across so effectively while not being chintzy about it. It's not just a big suit of armor. It just uses certain flourishes like this kind of gold skirt It's got the kind of giant, ridiculous pauldrons, and then it has the head with the visor that very much communicates a knight's helmet from the medieval period. And all those elements are just so smartly put together. But then it has those little gaps in the armor where you see the machinery and the simple kind of gray metal hands. You have all the joints around the knee that show all the machinery underneath it. And that sense of that if it wasn't for those pauldrons, you would see more of it on the upper arms, but those pauldrons help guard that part. And I think there's something where you get that, again, that sense of where there's flexibility in the suit, you see through to the kind of simple gray machinery underneath, which also communicates that idea of armor, because that is, for an armored figure, it is the joints are the most vulnerable part, because anywhere where the human body needs to bend is where you cannot have armor, or you have to have very limited armor for mobility, and it communicates that same thing here. It's just such a perfectly considered design. And then on top of that, you have the ridiculous shit that it can do, where it's got like 1,000 lightsabers inside of the stupid fucking pauldrons that just fires, like shoots lightsabers at motherfuckers. And you're looking at this, it's like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like Nemohan, sick 80s chick, is just flying around in her big gold mecha, firing crazy lightsabers out of her shoulders and fucking people up. And it's just nuts. And it's both for those kind of the crazy ways in which it's using the fights and all the things the pauldrons and its weapons can do, alongside the sense of this feels like it is the Rosetta Stone of this kind of style of mecha design that becomes so influential, and it all kind of feels like it is here in the OVA, and it's why it's got to be. It was easily the number one. It's the first thing I wrote down of like we're ranking the mechs. I'm like, yep, OVA. Now where do I put everything else?
But it really is, I think, the starkest thing we saw this season, Sean, was the evolution of this kind of mech design, of going from ancient Zambot 3 to L-Gaim is timeless. Like, those are going to be some of the best mobile suit mech, heavy metal designs of all time, as long as people are doing this kind of thing. And seeing that evolution over this less than 10-year period is pretty wild.
Yeah, it's such a huge shift in the aesthetics. And yeah, it is definitely like really interesting to see the way in which you get to like Zabungle, and like Zabungle is trying to get there, but it's still just, it doesn't have the language with which to express this newer idea of what these things can be. And then obviously there are other mecha shows like Macross and Bottoms around this period that are also helping to push in this direction. But this like incredible aesthetic shift that happens just a couple of years in the early to mid 80s is wild. And the OVA is just something that I think it is that feeling of like, oh, we're here. Like it's changed. Like the 80s era of mecha has started, and this is what it is.
Absolutely. Well, we ranked everything, Sean, and I think that brings Season 6, Part 1, what we have called the new anime era, to a close, which means we'll be going on a little bit of a break before you guys hear Season 6, Part 2, The Tears of Time.
Yes, yeah, we have been hard at work recording that, and we've already recorded some parts of it already, and we're getting into some oldies that we've already talked about on earlier podcasts, and we'll also get into some new stuff that we've never talked about before.
Well, let's tell the people what they will be hearing when Season 6 Part 2 premieres. So we will be beginning with a two-parter on Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. That is the only show we've already watched for a podcast that we are doing a full-fat re-review of. And so we are doing Zeta Gundam Part 1, episodes 1 to 23 on our season premiere. Then we will have Zeta Gundam Part 2 with episodes 24 to 50 on the second. We've actually already recorded those. They are some of my favorite podcasts we've ever done. I think going back and redoing Zeta made for some really rich conversations, and I think you guys I think it's going to be a great premiere for this season.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it was very, very fun to go back and go super fine-tooth comb through Zeta again, a show that very much deserves it. And you got to finally rewatch Zeta from beginning to end, which I know is something that you've kind of wanted an excuse to do for a long time.
Indeed. I mean, I think I pushed for us doing the Zeta Gundam new translation episode of Weekly Suit Gundam just because I wanted to get some more Zeta in my veins. You were more like, I don't know if we need to do that. I'm like, no, we're going to do it. So, yeah. All right. Then we will be doing Mobile Suit Gundam Double Zeta in a single episode, where we will be looking at some representative episodes. We'll have episodes on Gundam Char's Counterattack and Gundam F91, the films. Then we'll have Mobile Suit Victory Gundam, the point where Tomino gets totally burned out on this whole fucking Gundam thing. And then we will have some different stuff. We will have the 3-part OVA Garzy's Wing from 1996, the 26-episode TV series Brain Powered from 1998. Then we will be back to Gundam for Turn A Gundam from 1999 to 2000. Then we will have, and oh boy am I excited to see this one, because I saw the theme song when we did our top 10 theme songs thing a couple years ago, and ever since I've been just itching for this, is Overman King Gainer from 2002. Then we will have the 6-part OVA, The Wings of Reen, from 2005, which is our last return to Byston Well. And then we will have the Gundam Reconquista in G revisit, where we will specifically be looking at it through the 5 movies that Tomino cut together from 2019 to 2022. And then we will end with a wrap-up episode where we'll do all this ranking stuff again and finish our Tomino-thon. So Season 6 Part 2 will be another 13-episode core where we will double up and do some more Gundam, some more original stuff. It's going to be a really special season. I anticipate that it will probably premiere in September, but it could be a little earlier, it could be a little later, but we are going to spend the summer working very hard on this.
Yes, I'm very excited. You know, we are now moving into where I've already seen almost everything we've done other than those OVAs, and then, of course, the movie versions of Reconquista G. And I'm very excited to get to revisit Brain Powered and Overman King Gainer, because I know that both those shows are great and they're fucking wild. And I also, Garzy's Wing is a thing that has a huge reputation in a certain way in the English language sphere, and so I'm very interested to get to see that in its like actual Japanese version and not like the crazy English dub. But of course, I'm excited to do some of the research and learn about that, because if anyone knows anything about Garzy's Wing in English, they know some of its reputation. And then also The Wings of Reen, a thing that I know like nothing about other than that's the same title as his first novels he did in Dunbind. So there's some fun stuff to revisit, but also like some exciting discoveries for us to get into.
I actually have collected physical media for everything other than some of the Gundam shows in this second half, and that brain-powered one was tough because those original single DVDs are out of print, but I found I got a pretty good deal on them on eBay. I have the Garzy's Wing single, and Wings of Reen I got on a Right Stuff clearance sale like 7 to 10 years ago. Like, honestly, during the Weekly Suit Gundam stuff, like, they were $1 a piece for 3 Wings of Reen DVDs, and I haven't even opened them. They're still in their shrink wrap, just sitting on the shelf waiting for the day they would be called upon, and it is almost here.
Yes, it is almost here, and I'm very, very excited to get into all of this with our Tomino-thon Part 2.
「時代ない」「とあっても必要だ」